I'm taking some time here. I'm setting this up. I'm really just going live because we'll call it the pre-show. So when this is officially uploaded, I will share a time that this actually begins. But right now I'm putting this on Facebook so that people can go to it. All like 2 people watching it, if anyone. And I just hit go live so I get the link and do all that. I'm not very good at this stuff. I'm a technophobe, so I can't even see. Okay. Link to the Honest Work audiobook live stream. Right now it's just the pre-show. I am beginning early. And all right, that's that. So this is a new webcam, so I'm trying to figure it out still. All right, so basically I'll just spend this time going over the reason for this, if there even is one. So this is the audiobook for my book, Honest Work. That is the third, and I call it a literary triptych, which is about the most pretentious thing ever, and I apologize for making you listen to that. A trilogy, whatever, of books following the same characters. I kind of see it as more just snapshots of various lives and ages that these people are in, rather than any proper overarching narrative. There is character progression. It is in many ways basically a trilogy. It's really set up the same, but this is the last of them, and it wasn't even intended to be the last book. It was actually after the last book that I wanted to write. The last one I wanted to write was Conditional Love, which I recorded last year, almost to date, tomorrow last year. I did an audiobook of that live, and I thought it was fun. I thought it went over pretty well, at least in terms of, I don't know, I did it. I felt accomplished after doing it, so that was cool, I guess. And I didn't plan on doing it this year for Honest Work at all. As you can tell, this is much more impromptu than that. That was actually planned. I was going to do that in an event. I'm going to do it at like some kind of like art gallery or something. I had like stage plans organized and all that, but the book's too wild. It's too vulgar. It's too inappropriate, and I didn't want to get someone else's business involved in that. If I want to be crazy, then I can do that, but I'm not going to suck anybody else's work into it, and their livelihood especially. So the other day, I just was just thinking about it, and I thought, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to do an Honest Work audiobook as well. And the name of this live stream, as people can see, is Off-Season Adonis. That's just my favorite joke in the book. It's just a line that stood out to me, and it's the name of my YouTube channel that I wanted to debut this on. That's another reason I want to do is just to get some content on my YouTube channel, Off-Season Adonis. But I have to wait 24 hours in order to live stream there, and I don't want to, because I just want to get this over with. I just want to be fucking done with it, and relax tomorrow. So here's the rules for this live stream. Like I said, I have not prepared for this in any way. I didn't even know where this book was. I had to find it today. That's how unprepared this is. That's how off the cuff this is going to be. I am just reading it, so most likely scenario, this is going to be a train wreck. This is going to be one of the most embarrassing moments of the last, I don't know, like 10 years or so that I have been writing and doing things. This is going to be a low point, and that's kind of fun. I'm having fun with it. There's no pressure. It's not some serious artistic statement. It's just to do it. Just to do it. Screw it, you know? Because I've already proven that I can do this, in my opinion, because I did this already with Honest Work, with Conditional Love. So I'm just doing it for fun. That's really it. However, I am doing a little bit different this time because I'm also I have been sober for like 2 months, a little over, until February 13th. I drank very little bit, like maybe a third of a glass of wine or something stupid, and then yesterday I drank a whole bunch, and to test to see if I can do it for today. And today I'm going to drink as I do this. So I'm going to be getting properly dickered, as we used to say back in my college job, as I read this book. So it's going to be even more embarrassing. So like if halfway through the book you notice there's a lot of, man, like, why did he put that in a book? Why did he just write fucking before every adjective in this book? That's probably because that's what's happening. But I got stuff I want to do in the morning. I really don't enjoy drinking anymore. I don't say I don't enjoy it, but like I want to get up tomorrow early. I want to exercise, and I find that more rewarding. I find it more fun than I find drinking, especially drinking alone. I mean, you can only spend so much of your life listening to DMX and playing Crash Bandicoot, So I am gonna drink though, but I'm gonna be careful because I'm not used to it anymore. My tolerance is like zeroed out, and yeah, but so that's going to further complicate this, and for me at least, make it interesting. So it's not just repeating myself. The funny thing, like it's possible I could leave like halfway through to go puke. I could just like fall over, and it'd be like 8 hours of that before eventually I get up and then end the live stream. Like we're just gonna find out what happens, uh, and that excites me. I like the chaos of it because I talk about this all the time. It's not if on my phone. But one of the worst things about art today is that everybody's fucking boring, and I don't want to do something boring or that bores me. So keeping it wild like that is really going to at least keep me interested in myself. My career is effectively over, as I see it as a writer. I mean, the last audiobook that I did, the second act of it was called Death of the Author. I obviously not literal death, but that dispelling that aspect of my life. I'm much more invested in being a publisher and just, fucking around with Eric and podcasts than I am writing or anything these days. Let me see. I just set a alarm for work tomorrow, setting a ton because I know I'm not going to get up. Then I'm going to go get some water to hydrate. Then I think I'll just start. So this is, once again, this is the pre-show. If you're watching, this is pre-recorded. Just go to the fucking timestamp. Don't waste your time on this. I just did this so people can see the link and go to it, or not. Maybe it's better if people don't. It's better if people don't see this, which is like everything I've ever put on the internet. All right, so I'm good there. I'm doing this so that if I get too tired, I just crash. I'll still get up for work. That might be a problem. That is a real problem. What the hell do I do with this? Oh, sorry, Lionel. I'm just trying to find my alcohol. That somehow managed to lose. Still haven't found the whiskey, which is a pretty big problem. I probably should have set up before beginning a live stream. earlier, though. I don't really know where else I would have put it. This is the silliest thing I think I've ever put on the internet. This is even sillier than Bucky Toothless. For all one person who will remember that, we're good. All right. So, I'm going to begin soon, but do not judge me for not drinking too much. My tolerance is 0. My tolerance is already a bitch tier. And I'm trying to be somewhat coherent. And if you want to judge my reading skills, like I said, I'm not prepared, but honestly, I just suck. I'm just a really bad performer. But yes, so the audiobook is beginning right at 11 minutes, we'll say. All right, honest work. Act 1, third person. Also, I think this has typos. I think it's a typo version. Not that it matters, but the students are sitting in silence. What chatter does slip through the cracks of the walls they build up is awkward and hushed. The last of them float in, hesitating before resigning to a seat as though they would be signing a lease on it. Zippers on backpacks buzz and papers ruffle. Someone's lips smack as they gnaw on the insides of their lips. Someone's pen drops. It's like a bomb. Fortunately, no one is so bold. Such an outburst could surely cast one aside as a pariah for the semester, possibly their entire college career. Left to drop out or transfer to another school. The class inhales and exhales in a polyrhythm. Someone cracking joints or snapping pencils in half. One final man, bald and bespectacled, closes the door behind him. Might as well be a gunshot. It pronounces the birth of a new era. Hey, he says, dropping a thick folder on the front desk with a thud. And the person listed as T.A. Wesley Thompson at the top of the syllabus I'll be handing out later, but unless you want to be a suck-up, you can call me Wes. I graduated from here with a Master of Fine Arts. I've written as many books as I have fingers, mostly thinly veiled autobiographies, and this is my first semester teaching, so this will be a learning experience for all of us. You'll be my guinea pigs. More importantly than anything I've done in the past is that I can taste how my breath still smells like onions from the salad I ate before coming in here, so when talking after class, keep a safe distance. A lisp. A distance. Keep a safe distance. Doesn't matter who I am or what I have or haven't accomplished in the past. I'm the guy in the front of the room, but I'm not the headliner here. You're the stars of this show. I'm just the coach. So, real quick, can anybody tell me what they hope to get from this course? No takers. No? You signed up for it, right? Okay. I'm the first person to speak. It's 5 bonus points. He lifts his hand as though they are in his palm for the class to see. Yeah, you. To have a better understanding of literature? He shrugs. Sure. More importantly, though, you're here to learn how to communicate with the world. Every class you take in your life is going to promise you something about wanting you to think critically and blah, blah, blah. Well, I actually mean it. I'm going to train you how to read between the lines. You're going to land a job by knowing your Henrys from your Falstaffs? No. But what you can get from this class are the tools to be a more compelling speaker. They say that people who read are more sensitive or know more about the world than other people. Only the good readers. I don't want to tell you how to read books. I want to show you how to read the world. This is a 100-level class, so I'm hoping most of you are smart enough to be taking this as an elective. If not, get out while you still can. If any of you are absolutely married to the idea of getting a BA, feel free to come cry about it in my office and keep a box of tissues on my desk. A famous writer's son once told him, I decided that I want to be a writer just like you. His reply, welcome to hell. Yeah, this version, originally Wes was supposed to be the professor, but I changed that because I wanted to keep Dr. Casey as a character involved and also just time issue stuff. Next chapter. Also, oh yeah, before I get into all the like disgusting inappropriate stuff, this is not a children's book. I don't have to tell you, like, if you're watching this or you're like my sister or something, don't. If you want it to be appropriate. Sorry, I don't write children's books. I wish I could. Life would be easier if I did. Ione sits up from the wooden rocking chair in the corner of Maddie's bedroom. She treads lightly across the throw rug to avoid any protest from the floorboards beneath it. She can see her in the darkness just well enough to know that she's asleep. An image of a vampire sucking the blood of a sleeping damsel invades her mind as she leans in to plant a soft kiss on her cheek. Maddie hums softly and squirms, but settles back into her slumber. Ione shuts the door behind her with a death grip on the knob as she turns it to ease into position rather than springing back into place with an uncontrolled push. She lets out a sigh of relief as she walks down the hall to the living room, bending down to snag a box of matches from the coffee table without missing a beat. All she can hear is an orchestra of crickets. The head of a match dragging across a brittle strip of the matchbox gives way to the sizzle of a tiny flame. She takes it to the dining room table, where she lights a white candle. The match lasts long enough to light another on a counter right beside the entrance. Fuck, she breathes as its flame climbs up to the tip of her fingers. She shakes it out of its brief existence. The room is now cast in a soft sepia. Oni heads back towards the bedroom at the far end of the hallway and takes the box of matches with her. She starts collecting all the laundry on the floor, underwear sweat through in the heat of the night earlier, and the clothes that came off before them, into a ball that she drops into a laundry basket. She'll run that through the wash first thing in the morning, she promised herself. For real, this time, she adds, noticing that the sleeves are now reaching out past the brim of the basket like tentacles from a cauldron. She walks the length of the bed to a dresser, opens a second drawer, and pulls out a red tank top. Then, the third drawer, retrieves some shorts. She strips down out of the clothes the day is soiled. The shirt peels off of her, sticking around her pits. She tries not to notice the pinched rolls as she encourages her shorts to slide down to her ankles before kicking them off into the basket. She looks at the tattoos on her shoulders, blue butterflies on the left, purple on the right, where she anticipates Brendan's lips, then down to her forearms. One sleeve is complete already. She hopes to have it matched soon, if she ever finds the time. She steps into her fresh shorts and pulls them up as she lights a candle on the nightstand and leaves with the door open. Then, as soon as she gets to the end of the hall, her belly grumbles. She wants to think it can wait. Oh, ugh, that's horrible. I'm gonna puke in my mouth. Check this out. Look how stupid I am. I'm trying to see that you can see it. I don't know if it's gonna focus enough, but it can wait. WEIGHT. That's ridiculous. It shows you how much a 4-year English degree is worth, really. You can say it shows everybody makes mistakes, but clearly I make a lot of them. But that one is a bit inexcusable, I would say. Like I said, it's a fun thing. I'm not taking this too seriously. Let me see here. She wants to think and wait, but pressure moving down towards her cheeks doesn't seem so patient. She turns around, flicking the light switch onto the bathroom, and slides her shorts back down like they were on fire without bothering to close the door. She erupts into the toilet. She grips the marble sink with one hand and the lip of the bathtub with another. A gray film has developed over the bathroom tile, she notices. The stray nail is also littering its surface, right beside her left foot. She reaches for the toilet paper, but feels a cardboard roll. Without a sigh, she peels herself off the toilet. She remains hunched over with her behind as close to the seat as possible. She opens the cabinet below the sinks, as though a stray dropping might fall out of her at any moment. She reaches towards a bag of rolls, but her hand can't seem to find its entrance. She scours its surface, more impatient by the second, until she's tearing at it with her fingers. As a new hole is torn in the bag, her right hand flies into the side of the cabinet. Damn it, she says, not so quietly this time. A cry from Maddie's room. Mom, Mom. So there was a rattlesnake at the foot of her bed, which you can tell I was real enthusiastic. It's really not much of a wonder why I wasn't in any more movies after a second act. I'm coming, honey, Ione shouts, plodding back onto the toilet. She unwinds the toilet paper from the roll and scrubs between her legs, as many sheets as it takes until she no longer sees brown but red. She can't help but notice how large her thighs look pressed against the toilet seat. She takes one last sheet and reaches down for that clear crescent on the floor, but she can no longer find it. She moves her feet, but still it's nowhere to be seen. Slowly, as though it might jump out at her, she lifts her left foot. Of course, she is reaching forth with the paper in hand to collect the nail from the pad of her foot. By now, the commotion has evolved into Mommy, Mommy. I feel like a pervert saying this, Mommy, Mommy. Just 1 second, sweetie, Ione calls out before flushing the toilet with her big right toe. She starts to sink, lathers her hands, and then puts them under. She recoils like they were bitten. Hot, way too hot. She adjusts the temperature, rinses them, and then lathers them again. She wipes her hands dry after and heads back to Maddie's room. What's wrong, honey? She coos. Owie, Maddie says, reaching down to pinch her right foot. Let's see, Ione says, picking the foot up herself. She inspects it. She wiggles all the toes, starting with the pinky. Looks like nothing's broken. Maddie looks up at her as though expecting amputation to be prescribed. Can you feel this? She tickles a sole. Maddie giggles. Looks like everything's okay. I think you might have just kicked the gate in your sleep. Billy, Maddie says. You want Billy? Maddie nods. What about Bonnie? She's not good enough for you? Maddie shakes her head. Ione looks back to the toy box, but finds a green hat on the floor. She considers putting him back in his cage to teach a lesson about picking up after playtime, but then remembers that it's 9:40 at night. She scoops him up and places him next to his bride in Maddie's bed. There you go, the gang's back together. Maddie reaches for him and gives him a big squeeze before yawning. You all set, hun? Maddie nods, her eyes still closed. She curls into a fetal position, wrapping around Billy Bear. Ione leans back in for one more kiss goodnight and closes the door behind her. She walks past the dining room table and parts the curtains to look out to the yard. No headlights, but she did notice her fingers crossed for them. She retreats back to the bedroom and shuts the door behind her. She lays down on her back, squirming out of her shorts. Her eyes close as she tries to envision Brendan kissing up her shoulders to her neck before her lips. She feels smooth to her fingers, just shaved this morning. By the time she feels wet enough to slide a finger in, she realizes that she isn't picturing anything at all but getting off the act of masturbation itself rather than a porno in her head. She considers reaching for the dildo on the nightstand next to her, but this is just a pregame, something to tide her over. She bites her lip and hears herself begin to moan. Her toes knead and her knees lock in and out as she grinds her butt into the mattress. She hears her inner coach demanding she cut herself off as an orgasm begins bubbling to the surface. She knows she should, but she's waited all day. She can't wait another moment until release. Penetrating fingers become more rapid as she crescendos, gripping the side of the mattress with her free hand. She holds her breath and slowly comes back into her body, circling her lips gently with fingertips. She wipes the fingers on the comforter and sits up to slide her shorts back on. She blows a candle out before going back to the living room. She sits at the dining room table with a hand pressed to her temple and the other flicking through her newsfeed until the curtains begin glowing. Engine's roar dies down. It feels like 5 minutes of total silence before a door opens. Stairs creak slowly, as if the man entering the porch is returning from a 5K run. Finally, the front door opens. Ione can see Brennan's scalp through his thinning hairline. He smiles when he notices her. Hey, what's up? His chin is softened, his cheekbones no longer there to define his face. In his right hand was a case of beer. Did you get the milk? The what? He sets the box on the counter next to the candle and was already fidgeting with the side, trying to tear it open. Babe, the milk. I texted you. She stood up and started towards him. Shit, he spat. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. Do you get gas? She was now inches from him, looking him in the eyes. On one hand, she wanted to punch him, but on the other hand, it was his touch she was craving. No, his eyes rolled towards the ceiling. Okay, yes, but it didn't even cross my mind. What can I say? It was a long day. I got distracted. He tore the flap open and cracked the first can open. She shook her head. It's no big deal. Just please. The can was already moving towards his lips and tilting back. I want to kiss you before you taste like booze for once. He stretches his hand out and gives her a quick peck on the lips and then tosses the beer back. He crushes it in his hand once it's been killed and lets out a belch. Nice. That's real nice. What are you, a child? I had a long day. She hears her voice getting soft. Every day is a long day anymore, Brendan. I just want one beer to take the edge off. The rest of this is going to go in the fridge right now. It's cool. Have as many as you want. I'm going to bed. She spins on her heels towards the hall. What, baby? No. His voice is high, almost shrill. Baby, I want to see you. I waited all day to come home and talk to you. Was there something you needed to talk about? She looks back at him. Nothing specific. I just wanted to see you. You'll see me in the morning. It's been a long day for me too, she thinks. Maggie drops a fork back into the sink as the door swings open and smacks the wall with a thud. Scare ya? What's this? Stepping in with paper bags of groceries under each hand? Or is that just the recognition of who you're sleeping with finally settling in? Maggie shakes her head. No, I just kind of like that wall the way it is, without holes. So you're not mad. He places the bag on the counter to Maggie's left and positions himself behind her. She purses her lips, mildly irritated, but I'll forget about it before dinner. She says as his hands begin massaging her shoulders. Oh, I think I can make you forget about it sooner than that, he says, kissing her neck. She flings the suds from her hands. Forget about what? She turns from the window before her to look into his eyes. His hands move up to her neck before the kiss. What is that? What is what? Are you chewing gum? Wes cups his hand over his face and breathes into it, inhales, and then says, oh, that. The kids smoke me up while they try to e-cig. Cotton candy. Pretty neat, huh? Aren't they a little young to be hanging out with an old man like you? I'm really immature for my age. I live with a child, she sighed, smiling. Speaking of which, what were you thinking for this weekend? I got nothing. Did you have something in mind? Wes grinned. Yeah, well, I picked up the Little Prince because I found a copy on campus, but I also torn it Phantasm and was thinking we could spend the day in. We could, show the kids some culture. Yeah, she nodded. Keep it up, and at this rate, she'll be on Bergman by 4. Oh no, Wes said, pulling away from her. At that rate, you'll know we failed as parents. I'm shooting for Tarkovsky by that time. Pulls a carton of milk out of the bag closest to Maggie. Better chill this out before it turns to cheese, he announces, starting towards the fridge. I think that's how it works, Wes. He turns back to her, opening the door. I don't think you know how it works, because if you did, you'd know that's it. How about instead of watching movies about mortuary aliens this weekend, we find a good documentary about cheese? Could be informative for you both. They say Phantasm? Wes shuts the door and begins emptying the paper bags. Because I meant Fantasia. I've never torn Phantasm for my daughter. I already own it on Blu-ray. Wes, Maggie grabs Wes's forearm. Did you remember the rice? Yes, of course you didn't ask for rice, did you? Oh my god, you don't know, she exclaims. What? Sure I did. I just might not have grabbed it today is all. Well, I did grab it tomorrow. I'm so confident that I'm going to get that done that I'm already speaking about in the past tense. So you didn't get the rice. He looks down the counter. No. Good. We don't need any. Wes chuckles. You're a bully, you know that? Oh yeah? And what are you going to do about it? She turns towards him, rubbing his arm up and down. You going to keep me after class, Mr. TA? I bet all your students are checking me out up there. Can you blame them? I have the body of Adonis. An off-season Adonis. His hands find his way to her hips, spinning her around. Guess that means I'll have to step it up around here. Guess so. He picks her up and sets her on the counter, massaging her thighs. She kisses him. He kisses her back. Brendan is massaging the wiry hairs along the path of his jawline. Along the path his jawline was once carved. His eyes are tracing over the outline of a running stallion, following the waved lines of its mane, loose in the wind. He inspects the cross-hatching that implies a shadow of the horse's belly. The work is rudimentary. He considers it only the first stepping stone on the journey that has gotten him to where he is standing today, but is transfixed by it nonetheless. Like the white page the horse is running upon, Brendan seems to exist here upon a plane of negative space. His meditation carries him upstream towards his past. Stripped of its context, the horse appears free to him, perhaps a consequence of the amateurish naivety of its author, but with eyes trained by experience. Brendan sees his former muses with whore's exhaustion. When he used to go to the tracks with his father, at an age where he held a gun but not yet a girl, seemed so alive. Like a dancer upon the stage, the horses had achieved recognition that so many desired. There was an elegance to them, majestic like a celebrity and humble with ignorance of their status. They did not know the crowds hanging on their every step. The only thing they saw were the roads ahead. The fact that the horses that inspired him to draw this in the 7th grade are long dead breathes down his neck. How many were taken by the night to be found the next morning? How many of their lives ended with a gunshot? Every time Brendan finds himself in this position, he feels ecstatic the drawing once gave him. He worked on this picture for an entire history class when he should have been taking notes. It wasn't his first mental vacation, but it was the first time he felt anything more profound than distraction. It started mindlessly, but he soon found curiosity in the shape his hand was birthing. He was captivated by the development. He couldn't see the edges of the page, let alone the chalkboard ahead of him. The monotone of Mr. Wilhelm was drowned out by the thunder of its hooves. The romance crescendoed and left him in a state of ecstasy. The boy felt like he had a brush with God. A soft voice tickled the rim of his ear as the words, "This is it," poured into him. That was the moment he knew, the only thing he could ever be certain of. This was his purpose, and he bet his life on it. Standing there nearly 20 years later, he couldn't tell if it was a sign from above or merely the totem of a false idol. All his chips on the table. Oh, I almost sound like a horrible, offensive stereotype there. All his chips on the table never left his sight as he estimated the sorry lot of cards in his hand. In fact, he could see the chips so clearly that the cards themselves had started to appear faceless to him, more like blank canvases than blueprints. His teeth clash as something collides with the back of his head and falls to the ground with a soft thud. It felt like foam, but its unexpected arrival gave it the power of a cannonball to Brendan's train of thought. He spins around, eyes darting between his apprentices to see who dared ripple the waters upon which he was gazing. He scans the prime suspect, Arthur, from his berate head to his black Converse shoes. He's wearing a shading grin, but that's his standard expression. Brendan's eyes drift toward Amy, behind the glass counter exhibiting all the piercings. She's covering her mouth, giggles spilling out from between her fingers. Brendan feels his own face relaxing and his sneer melting into a smile, his cheeks flushed with a chagrin that his initial reaction was so aggressive. Took my voice away. Don't you dorks have something better to do than play catch, he says, bending over to scoop the foam pink and blue football up from the hardwood floor. He winds his arm back and launches it toward Amy, who catches it with both hands. No, she says, tossing the ball to Arthur before inspecting her black nails for cracks. Brendan notices a new piercing in the crest of her ear. Don't you have something better to do than stare at your old doodles like you're at the wailing wall, Arthur says, shooting the ball back to Brendan. In fact, I do. I'm bonding with my coworkers. He throws the ball to Amy. Plus, you're the one who said it's good to have a fun atmosphere. You said we look inviting to window shoppers that way. She shoots to Arthur, who stumbles backwards to catch the ball. He passes to Brendan. Yeah, and that was a great idea on my part. The way business has been lately, this place is starting to feel more like a daycare than a tattoo shop. He looks at Arthur, aiming the ball his direction as he draws his arm back. Last minute, he throws the ball to Amy. She catches it easily. Damn, thought I had you there. Nope. Amy shook her head back and forth. I could see you looking at me out of the corner of your eye. This is like, I had to stop there because this particular, I don't want to call it subplot. To me, it's actually, this is the reason I wrote the book, actually, was this stuff with Brendan in the tattoo shop. I didn't want to write another book after Conditional Love, but I just love these characters so much and wanted to give them a narrative send-off, whereas they got a thematic one and at the end of Conditional Love, but it just gives me it just takes me like being in high school and gives me these horrible, awkward, just chills of embarrassment and cringe. So, how would you rate your first week? Dr. Casey says, pouring a ladle full of soup into her bowl with the caution of a science experiment. The food court is alive with the slapping of shoes against floor and chatter. Without direction, one's attention could easily get lost in the chorus. Wes strains to hone in on her voice. It's been fun, Wes replies. Takes all his restraint not to grab the ladle out of her hand and pour it straight down his throat. Instead, he reaches for and starts pinching lettuce and dropping onto his plate. It's exhausting in ways I didn't expect, but I've been enjoying it. It's almost like I get in front of the class and black out. Without student participation, I don't think I'd have any clue if I was even speaking English. Dr. Casey nods. You'll find yourself on autopilot before long, she assures him. You have energy, which keeps the students awake. Starting the day with you was like a shot of espresso. Students seem to be enjoying the performance aspect of your lectures, but you should consider reeling it back some. What do you mean? He sifts through the croutons with a spoon until they're exactly 5 before adding them to a salad. Well, for starters, you're representing the school as an instructor now. It's expected that you revere the institution. How so? These students have a lot invested in this program, Wesley. You were sitting in one of those chairs yourself, not too long ago at all. You know that. As leaders, we need to be filled with hope, not depressing them. It's their job to inspire your creativity. You seem more intent on snuffing it out. You've got energy, but it's all negative. You need to redirect that into positivity. Our place is to be building the students up, not tearing them down. Wes looks down to notice that if he pours any more fat-free Italian dressing on the project in his left hand, he'll be eating an impromptu soup of his own. He shrugs. Just don't want to give them any false promises. We can't just line them up for the slaughter come graduation day. I mean, all these English BAs, how many will go on to write so much as a blog in 10 years? How many will even continue to read a book a year? If we can dissuade those without conviction, not only will the classes be better, but so will the students' lives after they graduate. If you can do anything else but write, do that. I think Bukowski said that. It's Buffalo theory. Listen, her voice lowered to a deep whisper. You weren't the only applicant for this position. There were plenty of students, very promising scholars, who wanted this job just like you did. You were not the obvious choice, but I took a risk on you. I did that because I believe in you, Wes. You're rough around the edges, but you've got passion. Potential alone can be fleeting if you don't put the work in to develop it. You're a student yourself. Let me teach you so that someday you can have a class of your own. I can make that happen for you. I'm not asking you to get up there in front of the class and lie or solicit anything. I just need you to follow my instructions so that someday your daughter can say that her dad is a teacher. Think about this. Would you want to be anywhere else in your life than where you are right now? You're right, I says softly. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm going to make sure you won't regret giving it to me. I take this position seriously, and I'm going to work on my act. She puts a hand on his shoulder. You'll make it. I'm going to get you there. Wes raps on the door frame as students file out. They swerve and eyeball him like he's wearing a ski mask. Once the last of them is gone, he slides in. Aaron Texter's English class, as I live and breathe. As I live and breed, he announces. This is where you know, like, the alcohol's trying to take a little bit of effect because, like, I'm laughing at my own jokes. Aaron stops shuffling the papers on his desk to look up with a smile. Wes Thompson, he stands up and walks over to shake Wes's hand. I'm actually not going by my middle name anymore. Really now, Wes says, shaking his hand one pump too long. His name wasn't the only difference about him. He put on a few pounds. His face looked kind of pudgy. His blonde hair was looking all thin towards the top. I don't even know what that is, but it'd be nice if I heard you say it about yourself. Martin, he says, releasing Wes's palm. Marty it is. You could tell by the look on his face that this was not an ideal moniker. Hey man, you picked your poison. Wow, I'm just in shock. I haven't seen you since the 5-year reunion. Oh boy, wish you hadn't. That night was a bit of a blur, a bit of a wake-up call. Only got 2 years sober, though, so ready for the 10-year. Good for you, man. Good for you. He dips both hands into his pockets. So, anyhow, how are you liking it? He leans back onto the desk. Wes exhales sharply, nodding. It's different. Seeing the class... Flip to the wrong page. Seeing the class with the tribal tattoo. Seeing the class from the other side. Feel like I sold my fellow slackers out. It's a new job. One isn't a little weird at first. He pats Wes on the shoulder. Insider's tip, you gotta watch your sleeves near the chalkboard. Wes lifts his arms to inspect the damage. Wes Thompson, he says under his breath, maybe to himself. What are the odds two book nerds like us would wind up teaching at the same school? Well, don't get too excited. I'm just a TA. Took a few years off to find myself. Problem was, I found myself working in a grocery store, so here I am. Now you're better off for waiting. I wish I had the maturity when I was in school that I have now. Too many distractions when you're young. Speak for yourself, Texter. Some of us are still young at heart. Plus, I'm plenty distracted as it is, trying to play dad. No way, Wes. That's great. Wes opens his phone and taps its surface a few times before passing it to Martin. She's adorable. It's because she takes after her mother. Congrats, man. On that note, I'm going to have to go back home and spend some time with her. Gotta make sure she doesn't learn any bad words. Had to wash her mouth out with soap for the first time last week when I heard her say Coldplay. I'll have to go out sometime, get drinks. Wait, I'm sorry. I forgot already. Water is still a drink. It's the drink, actually. Let's make it happen. So on that note, I'm going to go pee because I'm reading an entire fucking book. I get bathroom breaks. Ooh. All right, be right back. So this is the turning point of the night, I think, because I'm going to start giving myself a little bit too much credit because I'm just thinking in the bathroom, like, this is the weirdest fucking shit. Who does this? Who just records an audiobook and just goes to the bathroom? And I've just never seen something like this before, and it shocks me. This isn't a regular thing. And I'm really, yeah, we're getting to that point pretty soon, I think. We're reading like, you know, Wes says, he says, man, fucking... You doing the Jaws, show me the way to go home pretty soon. Let me just get back to reading. Also, I should know how to say the name Ione, but I don't. I've had a long time to learn how to pronounce this name. Never did. Ione is sweeping locks of blonde hair into a pile as Ronnie blathers on about his latest sexcapade. She's trying to focus on collecting the ribbons into an adequate nest, nodding politely as he gives testimony to the revelation of having two men inside of him at once. I'm not saying you need the coke to enjoy it, but hun, you have never had a three-way until you feel one with coke. Shh. She feels like some of the mist tickle her forearm as she sprays the patron. This was it. She has to say something, if not for her own sanity, so they both don't get reported. She's been trying to distance herself from the topic by neglecting to contribute to it in any verbal capacity, but the feeling of guilt by association has now begun creeping in. They can't both lose their jobs over his indiscretions. She casts a glance his way as she begins formulating what she's about to say. Is this really the kind of thing to be discussing at work? No, she'd come off prudish. She already gets nagged enough about that. Not in front of a customer? He's not kidding, says a patron. A girl with a red undercut and bangs remarks. Well, there goes that, Ione sighs. Saved by the bell. They all rubberneck and raise their voices an octave to greet the new customer. Sam, Ronnie exclaims. How you been? Living the dream, Sam replies with a gravelly voice. Ione studies her carpenter jeans and a gray sleeveless shirt. She wonders if Brendan provided her the tribal tattoo on her shoulder or the septum piercing. She walks right up to them as though she was expected. So wrapping up with Liv here. You mind if Ione fixes you up? So long as the scissors cut. Ione knows her voice just quivering. Ione knows her voice quivering just so slightly. Hun, once Ione's through with you, you'll wonder why you ever let me touch your hair. Ione steps aside so Sam can get into the seat. Ronnie slaps Sam's ass on the way there. So what'll it be today? Ione says, spreading the apron over Sam's torso. She makes a motion across the top of her head in a buzzing noise. Take the next step, huh, kid? Ronnie says, snipping an inch off a swath of Liv's locks. One foot in front of the other, Sam replies, inspecting the topography of the apron. I'm proud of you. A little shocked you didn't just do it yourself at home, but we'll take all the business we can get, isn't that right? He's looking at Ione. Yeah, so long as that's what you want. Sam purses her black lips and nods. If I try this at home, Dad won't let me shut the bathroom door till I'm 18. So, Ione takes a comb out of the barbicide jar and pulls Sam's shoulder-length auburn hair into a ponytail, holding the end in her left hand. She makes small talk as she amputates the rope of hair, cutting it straight across the back of her neck to a boyish length. They discuss high school, her hobbies, family. She's Ronnie's cousin. In the moment, she knew she wasn't a girl. Well, there's never a moment where she knew so much the moment that she accepted it, is how Sam explains it to Ione. She always knew ever since I was a baby and didn't have any interest in Barbie dolls. By this time, was been out the door for some time. Ronnie's now reclining in the seat she was situated in. It's just because you're mad you wasted $10. So I apologize. The last quote was Ronnie speaking. He says, I always knew ever since you were a baby and didn't have any interest in Barbie dolls. To which Sam then replies, that's just because you're mad. You wasted $10 on them, you cheapskate. Ione starts up the clippers and is soon hypnotized by its hum. She's always found something cathartic in its song, the meditation of one meow. Oh, I'm an idiot. The meditation of one meowing the lawn. Fuck. Sorry. Let me make sure I'm not strolling my charger. Embarrassing. She sees an artistry in the way the hair sinks down to the floor, like droplets of paint spilling from the brush. Her thoughts migrate to Wes's sister and the gash her passing had inflicted upon him. She can see the image of Wes's deteriorated face projected upon the mirror before her. The image is fogged up and the face is obscured by her memory. She retraces the steps Wes took to pull himself together for his family, for their child. Just as easily as the Thompsons lost Matt, he could have lost Wes. He used to swing by just to shoot the shit. She used to be tired of his voice. There's so many times he'd accidentally slam a door and wake the baby, keep Brendan up all night on the porch where Ione just wanted him next to her in bed. These days, she hardly gets the time to rest him for 5 minutes when they meet to pass a custodial baton. Ione notices that Sam's eyes are now closed. She sees her lip trembling and a tear is rolling down her cheek. She finds herself wishing a better future for the child beneath her, reminding her that this wasn't just a canvas to project her talents onto, but a living person. She wished that she could do something, that an angel would whisper the right thing to say into her ear, or let this young girl know that everything can be all right, but all she's left with is radio silence. Well, she announces, if you want to take a look, I think we're done here. Slowly, as though knocked out and regaining consciousness, she pries her eyes open. She either inhales audibly or sniffles. I can't tell. Sam scans over her dome, grazing over the dark stippling of its surface. She says nothing. How are you liking it? It's perfect, Sam says softly. Thank you. Checking something real quick. This book is roughly half the length of the others, so like, even though I'm taking these breaks and kind of dicking around, it really probably will be much shorter than the Conditional Love audiobook. So no worries there, and all like probably me for the only one watching this, and that's okay. It's fun. I'm doing it for the fun of it. Wes allows his father to pass before him, touching the pew in front of them as though it was the door of a car. Matt is curled in the nook of his other elbow. He gets a whiff of his dad's cologne and realizes the same brand he was given for Christmas this past year. Ladies first, he says, but Maggie tells him she's going off to say hi to his mother. Maggie was in the bathroom and wants to greet her in the entrance. So, Wes shimmies down the pew, stopping to shake hands and say how happy he was to see everyone in his path who could make it this Sunday, and compliment Maddie and how precious she is. It's a scripted conversation, but Wes realized in the past weeks, as he began reciting them, that he meant the words he was saying. When this crosses his mind, it reminds him of the last book he wrote, quite possibly the last book he'll ever write. A simple tale about a method actor who's no longer able to separate himself psychologically from a character he's playing in his latest movie. The primary difference here being that this isn't a psychological collapse, but a happy ending. The structure has become a safe haven to Wes, one he cannot lose himself inside the walls of. By the time he reaches his father, he feels like a celebrity that has just crossed the red carpet. Is it ever awkward for you? He says as he sits down. What? Wes tilts his head to the right, towards his mother and her boyfriend. Next week, Wes will be on the right side of the church with them. This has become a new tradition for the families. Instead of the custody of the boy's childhood, Wes now spends a Sunday service with each parent every other week. It started with the weekly visits just to check up on his dad after the passing of Matt. They'd go out to eat, stay in and watch a movie, work on projects to improve their respective homes, anything to keep each other out of the bar. Sure enough, there were times early on when Wes would come over to find his father unable to stand upright. As the complexity of life multiplied and the hours of the week free of responsibility grew shorter, Wes developed this plan to kill two birds with one stone. Probably not any more awkward than it is for her, his dad replies. Mom says it doesn't matter to her because she doesn't care what you think about her. For once, your mother and I are on the same page. They sit in silence for a beat. Wes inhales. Somehow, he feels at peace in a way that he can identify elsewhere. He's at ease in his father's presence, as though nothing bad could happen with him here by his side. Most weekends, ones in which he wasn't out of state visiting family, his girlfriend, Sue, would be attending with them. Wes felt a little more rigid on those occasions, but she didn't really matter anyway, so she could only kill so much of the buzz. You know what you want after this? Wes looks at his father. He sees all the hairs on his face are now gray. His eyes look tired from carrying their bags. Wes wonders how he wound up being the only person in the family to need glasses. Feels protected next to his father, but somehow smaller, weak. Real quick note here. I wrote this book before I was prescribed glasses. I was pissed when I was prescribed glasses because I thought that would be seen as some kind of parallel or whatever. Wes has glasses in the book because it's an allegory for him seeing more clearly now and focusing on the important things in life. It just kind of like poor timing on my part, but not. I feel very uncomfortable with comparisons between that character and myself. Anyhow, he feels protected next to his father, but also somehow smaller, weak. He anticipated as a child reaching a stage in adulthood in which he could carry himself with the same confidence he saw in his father. If that moment ever comes, it hasn't yet. His father always knows what he has to say, whether it's the right thing to say or not seems irrelevant to him. Wes never sees his dad shy away from a conflict, from one between the two of them to a cashier who went on our sale. So what if the sale ended 2 days ago? If he notices his shortcomings at all, it's like he sees his flaws as contributing factors of his character, rather than things to be ashamed of. His mistakes make him more interesting, the kind of mishaps that wind up in stories to tell your child decades later. You want Don Thompson around, even when he's at his worst, because it won't be time to forget. Wes's shortcomings just make him easier to abandon, so he thought. As a testimony to this, despite all the shit his father put him through, here he was today, at his side. Wes glances down at his black pants and considers ripping the tail of his shirt out from under the belt's embrace. You can never tell if he looks more fashionably challenged with the tucked in or hanging out, and he's too embarrassed to ask Maggie for advice. Did his father ever feel like a child who cannot dress himself in the sweaters he wears to church as he does in his button-ups? Didn't seem likely to Wes. Would you want to come over to our place? We've got some steaks. His father nods. Yeah, that sounds nice. Congratulations, Keith says with a laugh, slapping a hand on Brendan's shoulders. He hears the collar of his shirt lift as the palm is removed and flattens it back down. I say congratulations, like Withnail from the movie Withnail and I. I've just had that pronunciation stuck in my head lately. Just congratulations. I don't know. That's not how the character saying it in the book. I'm just sacrificing the quality of the stream for my stupid whims. Thank you, Brendan replies, nodding. Take it from me, son. You want to make the years of congrats last as long as they can before we start getting condolences on your anniversaries. That's what they call a grace period, he says with a smile. Oh, Keith, Mrs. Colito says, pushing his chest. Don't listen to him, dear, she says to Brendan, opening her arms for an embrace. We're so happy to have you in our family, she whispers in his ear as they hold each other. Thank you, I'm proud to be a part of it, he replies, releasing her. It's a nice gig, Brendan, Keith says. Most people try to get away from all the kooks for their anniversary. Well, Keith, Brendan wants everyone to be happy, Mrs. Colito says. Wedding isn't just between us, Brendan says. It's about two families coming together. We're lucky to have two families who can get together like this. I don't know many people who can say that. He inhales deeply, surveying the land of the park. Kids are crawling all over the playground. There's a lineup of adults playing cornhole. You can smell the barbecue. He chose a perfect day to rent a pavilion. My stutter's coming out. Pavilion. The sun is out, the breeze is gentle. This was a good decision. Well, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go play host, he said, reaching a hand out towards Keith. Try to find your wife while you're at it, Keith says, giving him a firm pump. Brendan starts towards the playground where he spots Maddie on the swing set. Wes is standing before her, leaning back as she swings up towards him as though he's about to be kicked in the face each time while Maggie pushes her from behind. You can hear Maddie's giggles from all the way back with the Cletos. Maddie, Brendan calls out. Hi, Daddy, she squeals amid a fit of giggles. You kicking your dad in your face? No, she laughs some more. Why not? I'm going to try. She kicks both her feet like she's trying to dog paddle. Ow, ow, Wes yells, jumping back and holding his. I'm not doing the fucking voice. I'm not going to pretend like I'm one of those readers. I can't. I'm not a fucking elementary school teacher that's doing like voices and stuff. I'm just reading the book how I read. Sorry. I'm not a visual thinker either. I can't picture characters when I read books. And similar, I don't do voices, so deal with it. He takes a few steps across the pine bark to greet Brendan and his rubber border. Hey man, thanks for the invite. For sure, you guys deserve to be here. Your family. Brendan steps over onto the playground, approaching Maddie. Oh, and good job on the marriage. I'm happy for you guys. Thanks, bro. It means a lot. Maddie, Brendan says in a falsetto. There's my girl. Our girl. Wes corrects him. Psh, you know what I mean. He reaches his hands out and tickles Maddie. She swings towards him, provoking another eruption of laughter. Maggie, you ready for a rematch at the cornhole? We found stiff competition in her at a cookout Brendan and Ione hosted at their home this past summer. That depends. You ready to lose again? Sure am. By lose, you mean lose the shame of defeat. You sure you two aren't biological brothers? Oh, come on, Wes spat. You'd know if we were, because Brennan would be much handsomer. And Wes would know how to throw a spiral, Brennan rebutted. Then, where do you find a talking head shirt and size baby? The internet has everything, Wes replied. Everything. Well, on that note, I'm going to go look for Ione before she finds herself a real man. I'll catch you losers in a bit. He feels his shoe grinding down to the pine bark as he spins on his heels back towards the pavilion. Ione's sitting with his own parents at a picnic table. His side is a gift. Son, we were just sharing embarrassing stories about you. Care to join in? I think you guys have got this one covered, Brennan replies, stepping over the bench and plopping down next to Ione. Thanks for saving them until we were legally bound. Well, we didn't want to scare her off, his mother, Sue, chimed in. At this point, it's kind of funny. I gotta look something up here. Sorry. No, I know what happened. Okay, yeah, there's two characters named Sue. I don't give a shit. That's just kind of a funny thing. I'm just real lazy about naming people, I guess. At this point, nothing surprises me, Ione says, scooting over on the bench to lean her head on Brendan's shoulder. What we were really discussing was how the son of a cop winds up running a tattoo salon, Doug says. Oh, Sue whines. It's perfectly obvious how it happens. The pastor's children are always the wildest. It's just natural. Plus, Dad, don't act like you don't have any tats. What about that bird on your butt? The family laughs. Ione tugs on Brendan's shoulder. What? When the kids were younger, we told them Doug had a tattoo of a bird, a toucan, Brendan adds, on his behind. Which I don't have, Doug clarifies, and I'm perfectly willing to prove that won't be necessary, Dad. We told them this for years. I believed it until I was in college, and you wonder why I have trust problems. A moment of silence. So, kids, Doug says, how's it feel to have 1 year down? Flew by, Brendan says. It really did, Ione confirms. Before you know it, it'll be 30, Sue says. Just hoping by then I can try to put the seat down. See, Doug? He does take after you. Wes doesn't notice how smoothly his car comes to a stop, the absence of squealing resistance from his brakes, how effortlessly the vehicle climbs from a stopping at the sign to 25 miles per hour. His eyes aren't magnetically drawn to his RPM gauge out of paranoia the transmission could fail on him at any moment. His eyes casually scan the street and immediate scenery for any idiot pedestrian, maniac driver, or hapless critter. It's nice of Brennan and Ione to give us a night with Maddie. Maggie calls over the radio. Nice of them. He reaches for the dial to turn the volume down despite the buttons built into his steering wheel. We're the ones doing them the favor. Wes, Maggie hisses. What I mean, Maddie, is that sometimes adult couples like to be lazy because we're old. We just like to hug and sleep. You know how Tabby sleeps all the time? Tabby is the name of the cat. That's not really introduced like 2 fucking books ago. So, you know, if you didn't read them or listen to them, you wouldn't know. Tabby is always sleepy, Maddie responds enthusiastically. Right. So are some adults. Not Maggie and I, we're fun. Mommy and Daddy B are old, though, and sometimes they need rest. Like how we have to charge our cell phones. He turns the volume clockwise. Mads, I forget who made this song. Can you tell me? Vivid Underground. That's right. You're so smart. I wish I was as smart as you. Do you know who sings it? Who's this girl's name? Is it Rico? No, Tico? He catches Maggie leaning in and whispering something in Maddie's ear behind her wall fingers. Oh, come on, no cheating. Nico, Maddie yells. She's not one of your students, Wes, Maggie says. Sure she is. She's my star pupil. Mads, who's your favorite teacher? Daddy B. That's not funny. You're hurting Daddy's feelings. Don't be sad. You're my smelliest teacher. Well, at least I'm the best at something. Speaking of Ione, Maggie says, what was that all about earlier? What do you mean? Do you need to talk to you about something? Everything cool? Oh, that was nothing. Yeah? She used to write, and she wants to write a book, but wants me to help her with it. I don't know why. Oh, it's my place. Well, that should be fun for you. Is that okay? You're not weird about this. Sounds like so irresistible and all. Not at all. I was just wondering. So spit it out. I just thought maybe this could help get you writing again. Wouldn't hold my breath on that. Checks her out in the rear view. Her cheeks are puffed out, and she's pinching her nostrils. You know what? You belong back there in the silly seats. She's gonna think I'm the only adult in this car, and that's scary. Don't mind Daddy, honey. He's just a grump, isn't he? Yeah. Maddie burst out laughing. And you two should be proud because you make me feel like the happiest grump. So happy I don't need stupid books. All I need is this right here. It's kind of a funny thing with this particular book. Like, I definitely don't identify with the characters in many ways, but the crossroads aspect of the book definitely I do identify with in some ways. Like, I definitely don't I definitely feel burdened by the need to create art, and would much rather have a more stable life situation than fucking books like this and live streams with no viewers. Brendan's hands rub circles over Ione's hip as he kisses her shoulder. His hand first explores the skin beneath her tank top, and then burrows into her pajama bottoms. Once again, this isn't a kid's book. If you want SFW shit, go to some other YouTube page. Sorry. His hand first explores the skin beneath her tank top and then burrows into her pajama bottoms. She can feel him pressing against her. Feels prickles across her thighs. She can feel his heavy breaths on her neck. He fishes his hand out to brush some hair aside and begins kissing up her neck and nibbling her ear. She slides the hand of the arm she's laying down the top of her tank top, fondling her breasts. Its opposite slides down the front of her pajama bottoms and into the pouch of her thong. Ione turns her head towards him to kiss his lips. She opens her mouth, flicking her tongue against his own. She picks her head up so he can retract his hands and rolls over to face him. He rolls her tank top up, and she raises her arm so he can slide it overhead. He tosses into a laundry heap in the corner of the room. She pulls his cock out of his boxers and massages her hands. Sorry. I'm at that point where I'm starting to slur. He wets her chest, one nipple at a time. She kisses and bites his shoulder. She pulls him close and feels him grinding against her. His hands move from her back down to slide her pajama bottoms off and then the thong. They both wind up in the trash heap. I love you, he says, pressing his lips up against her as he slides her onto her back and straddles her. Love you too. She reaches over to the nightstand, straining to open the drawer. Ione, what if we made another baby tonight? He says, twirling a finger through her hair. Let's use a condom. She pinches a wrapper between her index and middle fingers, drawing it in. I'm serious, babe. So am I. She holds it back to him. She holds it out to him. Not tonight. He sighs and then snatches it out of her hand. He tears the wrapper open and retracts the condom. He thumbs it and pinches the tip before rolling it down his length. He uses the pinching hand to direct himself into her, but feels resistance. He pushes into her a little harder. Brendan, let's use some lube. Yeah, he says, stretching out to grab some from the drawer, still opened. Squirts some of his hand and lathers latex up. This time he goes right in. He holds her hips as he pumps. He's looking at her, but her eyes are closed. Yes, 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 she repeats / chants with her hands on his ass. Right there, she bends up to kiss his chest. He never confesses, but he couldn't feel a thing. The damn rubber is so numbing. He leans further down, nuzzling his head and nook between her shoulder and neck. He feels her legs cross over him. She runs a hand through his hair. He grinds and pushes into her, but nothing was stimulating. Feels like his dick was shot full of Novocaine before they began. Her legs lay back down on the mattress. He grabs her tighter, keeps thrusting. She is silent. All Brendan hears is his own breath. He feels his heart racing from all the work, but that is all. Eventually, he slows to a halt. You good? He says, still inside her. Ione nods. You? Mm-hmm. He lies and pulls out and unfurls the condom. Let me go toss this. He hops off the bed. Just throw in the trash bin by the bed. I have to use the bathroom, too. Oh, well, don't do that in here. He pivots so his feet are on the ground and walks naked to the bathroom, where he strokes himself until he comes into the toilet bowl. With that said, bathroom break, part 2. So far, we are this far in the book. So, I don't know, like a third, roughly. Alright. I'm gonna fix this fucking camera. No? I can never get the right angle. I feel like no matter what I do, it makes my face look bloated. But, I mean, let's be real, my face kind of is bloated these days, but not as bad as it looks on the fucking webcam. They have longer eyes. I hate watching those because I always look like, I don't know, I think the camera does add 5 pounds in some ways or whatever they say. Anyhow, back to the book. Daytime talk show plays in the background as Wes stares at the sheet of paper in his lap. The host is hyping up some movie up for an Oscar. The star of the film, who humbly began as a stand-up comic, is detailing his transition drama. He's recounting his childhood and the coping mechanisms that he was able to monetize and later draw from as inspiration for his more tragic role. Real quick, I am going to go over some of the cut shit from the book once it's over, because all like the stuff cut from the book's late book stuff. So like, I don't know. I just like bring that up. There's going to be a post-show thing. Not much of a pre-show, obviously. That was more just like me looking for things and getting ready. But there will actually be a bit of a very brief, quick show. Anyhow, he's recounting his childhood and the coping mechanisms that he was able to monetize and later draw from as inspiration for this more tragic role. He's still able to pepper in enough gags to keep the audience laughing. Wes always liked the idea of holding a clipboard. He never looked up to his gym coaches, but there was a certain look to the baseball cap and clipboard combo that appealed to him as a student. Anytime he's asked to use one, the situation felt awkward and his handwriting looked infantile. He feels the same way using the chalkboard in front of the class. Dr. Casey's swooping letters have an elegance that makes him look like Manet next to Wes's chicken scratch. Last time he used a clipboard was when he visited the eye doctor nearly 6 months ago. Felt like nothing compared to the vision test he failed soon after. He strained to see the letters, but it looked to him like they were obscured by clouds. So the letters could have been wingding, for all he could tell. And then he brought his right index and middle fingers to push the glasses further up the bridge of his nose. There's a simple rule Wes found himself following, the point where he began to worry of confirmation bias. Any question asking if he had a symptom, i.e., do you have periods of extreme highs and lows? He replies yes. Every question prompting him to grade himself, such as, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your average mood? He puts a mid-range answer. Anything that might flag him as a risk to himself and or others, like, do you ever feel that life isn't worth living? He puts an answer that seems least concerning. Maybe 20 minutes after he turns his paperwork in, he's greeted by a tan woman in a navy blue suit. He stands to shake her hand as she introduces herself as Kendra Glover. She's young, that's promising. He won't feel like he has to confess something to a parent. She leads him back to her office, through a doorway and down 2 halls. Wes looks around the office nervously as he climbs into a seat across from her desk. His eyes scale the spines of books on the shelf to his left. Names are printed on them that he's never heard of. The desk in front of him has a tiny sandbox with a miniature rake in it. There's also a stress ball. I wonder if that's for her or for him. He can imagine that he might have her crushing it if he doesn't mind his tongue. Depending on what he says, she might even whip it at him. "So what brings you here today?" she says, the first thing either of them has said since they seated themselves. That 10 seconds felt like a year. The familiar anxiety of sitting in the hot seat of the principal's office reached out from the collar of his shirt to wrap its fingers around his throat. The therapist, Kendra, dresses professional, but seems casual enough. He feels an urge to jump out of his seat, throw the door open behind him, and run for the exit without ever looking back before the taste of his own foot could enter his mouth. "My girlfriend wants me to," he says. "Why is that?" I guess I cry in my sleep a lot." His eyes are sweeping the carpet. "You suffer from nightmares?" He nods. "Are the nightmares ever recurring? Would you say it's different dreams or the repetition of the same dream?" "Both, kind of. Sometimes it's the same thing, but mostly they're different." "Are they about anything in particular? Your job, a memory?" "No," he lies, "just different kinds of anxieties." "Okay." She's writing something down on paper. He knows that by now she's already studied the results of the questionnaire. "Quiz I filled out earlier had me feeling like you're going to tell me what Disney princess I am when I came in." She looks up from the paper as though she doesn't understand. "With all the symptoms, do you ever this? Have you ever felt that?" "Well, do you want to know?" "Know what?" "Which princess you are." "Sure." Mulan. As the students are exiting the class, single file, one doesn't. The straggler waits patiently in her seat as her peers empty the room, and only once, only 2 or 3 remain. She starts packing up her belongings. Approaching Wes's desk, where he's noodling inside a composition book to look busy in front of the students, she brushes a shock of brown hair back behind her ear. The hand that does so is trembling. Although she stands above Wes, behind his desk, he felt an unfamiliar power over her. Even though she was in a physical position to knock him in the jaw and he'd tumble to the floor, he had a feeling he could throw a boo with some jazz hands, and she'd go running for the door, begging her classmates to wait up for her. "What's up?" Wes says, glancing up at her in a way to mimic how he's been seen bespectacled characters do so in the movies. Her eyes were glassy with tears that would be rolling down her cheek any second now. "Well, I don't really have any excuse. I don't know what happened, but I didn't do the assignment for today, and I wanted to apologize." Wes shrugs. "Well, I'm sure you got a lot going on." "That's what's so frustrating," she says, wiping a tear before it could reach her upper lip. I just spent the weekend binging TV shows without a care in the world. Somehow it just slipped my mind. I feel like a total idiot." "What were you watching?" She seems taken back by this. "Forged by Fire." "That's the new one. It's Riley Jackson?" She nods. "How is it?" "It's okay." "Just okay or good?" "Just okay." "All right," Wes says with resolution. "Here's what you're going to do." She looked at him as though she was awaiting the hammering of a gavel. "You're going to come to class 5 minutes early Wednesday and turn your paper in. I'm going to give you 2 options on how you'd like to handle this. You can either turn the essay in according to the rubric you were given last week and get a B for tardiness, or you can write an additional page saying what could have made that TV show better. That way, you weren't distracted, you were researching. Anything can be a learning experience if you open your eyes to it. Worst thing about being an artist is that you're never off the clock, right?" "I'm actually just taking this class as an elective." She clears her throat. "My major is in law." He nods. "Good for you. In that case, consider it a favor from one idiot to another." "Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for the theatrics. Also, I have higher expectations of myself, and I'm really irritated I made such a simple mistake." "Don't sweat it. Mistakes are all I make, and look where they got me." Rust has eaten through the body of Brendan's truck around the tires. Some patches are deep burgundy, others bright orange. It's made a weekly habit to go with a bucket of soapy water and chemical for rust preventatives. He scrubbed the spots with clay bars, sprayed them, tried converting the rust, but no matter what he does, the cancer cells blossom anew. He began to notice them on other cars as he was passing by. He'd compare to see his progress. He wasn't just an orange stain like cement any longer, but the rust hadn't yet eaten holes in his truck either. Of course, he could always invest in a new vehicle. He has money set aside for down payment and monthly payments probably. Wouldn't amount to more than the upkeep for the truck, but there's a comfort in its familiarity. The truck isn't perfect, but it's his, and he intended to ride it until that fateful day it will be laid to rest in the scrapyard. He feels anxious inviting Amy into it. He never gives out rides. Even driving Ione and Maddie around, he typically uses her car. It feels like the rust spots are somehow more pronounced in the moonlight, as if they were glowing in the dark. So God was on his side. The night was filtered by a thick layer of fog. You got your tetanus shot, right? He says, forcing the passenger side door open. It's often sealed shut by rust on the bottom of the door, something he'd rather not allow his passengers to notice. Depends, she says, walking around the front. Is that an employee requirement? He lets himself in the driver's side, slams the door shut. Only if you plan on suing when you wind up with it. There's plastic balls clash as she moves her feet. Sorry about the mess. I'm not used to company in here. Her green eyes watch him as he inserts its key into its hole and hesitates. What's the holdup? Seatbelt, he lies. He hears it stretch out and then click into place. He holds his breath as he revs the engine, and Kirk coughs as it comes to life. A few seconds of purgatory as a check engine light flashes always makes him feel like he's back in school about to receive test results for his least favorite class. The pit of his gut sinks as he faces the reality of the day coming when the car will not wake up. Fortunately, tonight is not that night. He puts the car into reverse and places his hand on the back of the passenger seat to check himself. He can smell her coconut shampoo. Thanks again, she says as he swings out into the desolate street. Anytime. He can't see a damn thing outside the rays of his headlights. When did it get so late? What is going on, anyways? So it's the worst luck. She begins. He finds himself immediately drawn into her voice. She speaks with a youth. My voice is going. This is that point. I keep getting further and further. It's a slippery slope, and it's just momentum's picking up. She speaks with a youthful fervor, yet wise beyond her years. Talking to her makes him feel both young again and also more like a man. Maybe it's the age difference. You know how my car is in the shop this week? The whole week? How long does it take to replace a coil? You're starting to sound like my dad, who's probably right. Anyhow, Robbie and I are still on break, so he's leaving on red until he's bored of whatever girl he's probably lying next to right now. I bet she's black. I don't want to say he's racist, but he has this fascination with black people. It's almost like he objectifies them. It's like he scored a black chick. He'd think he was somehow a better white person for it. That's funny. It almost sounds like he would have to think less of them, think higher of himself for being so humble as to fuck them. Right? It's like he thinks he's doing them a favor. He's taking the white man's burden in the bedroom. Hearing himself say that reminds him of Wes Thompson. Brendan blames the remark on his bad influence. What a guy. That's all just what I think he's all about, though. So, it might not even be true. I don't know. You do you, I guess. But in this case, he's actually doing other people, too. Beyond that mess, my parents are geriatric and probably sleep at like noon. Well, it's no problem. After all, what are bosses for? Free tattoos? This was something Brendan would never divulge to his peers or wife, but Amy Gutter started the shop working payoff her very first tattoo. She came in with a leather sketchbook full of some of those intricate drawings. She had everything, from pop culture icons to calligraphy to original designs. She had a perfect balance of acclimating different styles while retaining her own voice. Brendan remembered thinking her work was like listening to someone go from speaking one language to another just as fluently over and over again a dozen times. She wanted one of the originals on her shoulder. It was a sock monkey. He told her that with her skill, she could probably do it herself. That's when she explained that even if she could operate a tattoo gun, it would be physically impossible, considering the location of the tattoo. Fair enough. When it came down to pricing, she didn't have much, so he offered to do it for free. She would show up for lessons. From her reaction, that was more like a bonus than a cost. The rest is history. Taking a water. Every tattoo is a collaboration, but none felt so intimate as this one. It wasn't just a life-affirming quote in Chinese that he might give a stylistic flourish. It wasn't a comic book character he put his own spin on. Only a communication between two people on a level deeper than the transactional norm. It's calmly discussing inspiration for a tattoo as it's being done. She explained to him that her grandmother had made the sock monkey while she was still cooking in her mother's oven and given it to her the day she was born. She slept with the monkey every night from her crib to her first bed and carried him everywhere. The monkey was called Dandy by her parents, but she called him Dirty when she was old enough to speak at all. She told him how much she cried when she accidentally tore his arm on the bark of a tree while pretending he was climbing it. Somehow her grandmother sewed him back up. Brendan's idea to put little stitch marks on that arm in their reproduction. As the years went on, Dirty somehow slipped between the cracks. He'd somehow escaped from her room. When she asked her parents if they had seen him, they suggested that maybe he joined the circus. Years later, once her grandmother passed, her grandfather gave her a box from her late grandma. Inside it was one final message typed up, as her grandma was unable to type. She dictated to Amy's grandfather and an old friend. By Amy. It was written on the bottom of Dirty's right foot. That's kind of once again, that's one of the few things taken from real life. I don't know, it's a sock monkey, but my grandma had Dirty and sewed his arm here, as you could see. I scraped his arm on a tree, and she left me him when she left. And that actually, I wrote an article on it for the Odyssey online, and that was the only one that ever won the most shares. So I'm gonna put dirty right here for the rest of this live stream, and I'll keep going. But it's just a fun little bit of trivia on the book. Amy explained this to him over the hum of the gun as he tried to mix the ink with the lifeblood of her story. Thinks back to her in the booth and a spaghetti strap in his hand, gloved in latex, holding the canvas of her skin. He remembers the scent of that same shampoo. He developed an appreciation for her. She detailed her childhood and relationship with her family that day, and found himself glad he offered to mentor her. He hasn't regretted it a day since. That's my turn, she says, pointing to the left. You have to tell me which house. I can hardly see a thing in this fog, he says, allowing the steering wheel to straighten itself out in his hands. He keeps his hands gripped on the wheel just enough to feel the vinyl slide across his palm. Right here, on the right. He pulls into the driveway. Thanks 1,000 for the ride, B. She unhooks her seatbelt and zips back into its resting position. Anytime, he nods. If you ever need a ride, just let me know. Will do. Thanks again. Hey, he says as she pops the door open. You're doing really great, and I'm glad to have you around the shop. I'm not great at this boss shit, but you've come a long way, and I am proud of you. She shifts her weight back into the seat. That means a lot to me. You know, I really look up to you. After all, you popped my ink cherry. She reaches a hand out. Don't you think I'm unprofessional, so a hug probably wouldn't be appropriate. He takes her hand in his. We're business casual at best, he says, giving it a pump. Arthur kisses me on the cheek when I give him compliments. That's where I draw the line. She giggles and they disconnect, and she climbs out of the truck. Have a good night, B. See you tomorrow. The door shuts with a bang, and Brandon turns to navigate his way out of the driveway best he can without leaving tire marks in the yard. He squints to make out anything at all. How did it get so dark? It seems so sudden, like a curtain drop. Is he truly so oblivious in the shelter of the shop? Of course, Ione thinks to herself as Maggie opens the front door and lets her in from the porch. She's hoping this wouldn't be the case, but is met with a smile and spreads her on. Hey, how are you? She says in a borderline falsetto. Doing good. How you been? Maggie says, reaching towards Maggie and Ione's arms. Reaching towards Maddie and Ione's arms. I specifically named all these characters with like the Matt E beginning and ending, and then like it trips me up when I'm reading these. Doing good. How you been? Maggie says, reaching towards Maddie and Ione's arms. And how is my girl? Maddie giggles as Ione passes her over to Maggie. She didn't plan on having Maggie babysit, but that might be for the best anyhow. Wes, Maggie calls out. Here, come in, she says to Ione. Then another shot. Wes, Ione is here. Ione follows her in towards the living room. The place has really gotten a makeover since she moved in. Rather than the center pot, she smells a cinnamon candle when she enters the house. The coat is folded neatly over the cushions of the new sofa. The coffee table in front of it isn't littered with empty bottles and bags of potato chips. Even from the doorway where she shook off her shoes, she could see that the tiled kitchen floor was sparkling clean. It's a shock to see the place look so livable. Boys, Maggie says. Boys, Maggie sighs. I guarantee you, he's got headphones on like he has no idea company is on the way. I'll be right back. She disappears in the hallway to the right. Ione isn't sure whether to take a seat on the sofa or stare at the blank TV screen or to tread towards the kitchen for a seat at the table. She vaguely hears Maggie in the other room say hi to Daddy, then Maddie squealing. She remembers the last time she was here, the night Brendan proposed to her, and decides on the latter. What did I tell you? Maggie says, emerging with Maddie no longer in her arms, but Wes behind her. Whatever she says, just agree, Wes drones. I've learned the best way to keep her around is to never end an argument. She never leave without getting a last word, so that's security for me. In your case, I just go with it. I've got a real charmer, Ione says to Maggie. What can I say? I got tired of sweet talk and empty promises. In that case, you made the right choice. Ladies, Wes says, taking a seat at the table across from Ione. Stop fighting over me with this reverse psychology mind game. No mind games here, Ione says, putting her hands up. Oh, I see. Oh, sure, I see what you two are playing. You're both talking me down to the other to be like, no, he's not so great. Go ahead, you have him. Then when one of you makes a move, the other's going to pounce. Just daring each other into some cat fight. And as a mature adult and the referee of this duel of wits by proxy, I'll have none of it. But if we must decide a winner, it's Maggie. On that note, Maggie says, I'm going to be in Maddie's room so you two can have some privacy. And Ione, don't listen to anything he says besides the writing stuff. He knows that. Also, make Wes get you a drink or a snack if you want anything. He probably won't remember to ask. Be gone, woman, Wes says, shooing with his hand. So, he turns towards Ione. What is that you're working on? Well, she feels flustered already. I don't exactly know. She feels the muscles in her face cringing as she says this, nervously baring teeth. Gotta say, that isn't the strongest pitch I've ever heard. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't know how to make it into a story yet. I want to write something about self-actualization. Somebody, a girl, who thinks she has her life figured out, but realizes she doesn't really know herself at all, and then goes on a journey to find that out. Just do me a favor and spare the world that J.J. Abrams mystery box shit. The world has enough of it as it is. That's fine. That's actually Eric and I were just talking about that on the last Too Cool for the Comic Shop. So that all wasn't planned. No, that's not what I was planning. We don't have to know everything about this girl because she doesn't yet know herself. But give us something interesting to latch onto. I mean, every scene, every dialogue is an opportunity for the readers to learn about her. So much of self-realization is just going out there and finding out who you are. I think the best way to do that is for her to find herself through her actions, because that's how characters are defined. Exactly. Have you started writing it yet? I have notes on my phone, like lines of dialogue, characters I want to be in it. Nothing is actually written down. I don't have a title yet. I just don't have the time, and when I do, I don't have the motivation. I stare at the computer screen, and the page just looks so empty, it's hard to find where to even begin. Just start at the beginning. I'm not an idiot. You don't have to talk. No, seriously. Think about it like a movie that plays in your head. Can you picture what you want to write? I know it's early, but when you think about the book, can you always see a trailer for it in your head with all the exciting scenes you're trying to get down? I know he nods. Think about every chapter that way. If you can find that scene in your head, just document it on the page like a transcriptionist. You used to write for the school paper, you know what to do. The best damn reporter Mr. Hodgson ever had. Well, that's up to him to decide, but he did tell me that a few times. It's a leap of faith. It's like fucking, he says to her in a hushed tone. He used to whisper jokes to her in the 11th grade. She glances down the table. What do I do once I start and don't know where to go next? It's all cause and effect. Just ask yourself, what happens now? I found that more often than not, I know, even if I don't think I do. Just let the muses guide you or whatever pretentious metaphor you identify with. And what if what ends up on the page is nothing like the movie I have in my head? I guarantee that it won't be. You're talking ideal versus reality. You'd be lucky if anything you write even resembles what you had in mind when you started the project. But if you keep your wits about you, it can be even better than you imagine. I'm drinking more. Still got a long way to go, I'm not going to lie. Not quite halfway through. A little bit scary. Honestly, I take a little bit of comfort in the fact that nobody's watching and nobody cares. But, I don't know, it'd be nice if I did, but, like, you know. See, I'm at that point, I'm like, you know. Let's get some dribbles on the toilet seat while shaking himself off. Ah, Christ, he says, reaching out to grab a few squares of toilet paper. He wipes his seat down and then tosses the wad in the bowl as he flushes it. It's a catch-22 he's found. Either he wakes Maggie up by flushing the toilet at night, or he gets it in the morning for leaving a bowl full of piss water. He feels some more leakage in his pants. What is wrong with me tonight, he thinks. The only time he ever loses this much in his pants is when it's really cold. He can stand there and wag his dick for an hour, but the moment his pajamas are back on, sure enough, there'll be some trickle. Whatever. Turns both hot and cold knobs at the sink to equal degrees, 6 o'clock rotations, to be exact. He runs his hands under the water, absent-mindedly massaging them to rub the water in before realizing he wasn't wearing any soap to lather. He reaches out for the bottle, but notices the hands looked like they were wearing skin-tight red gloves. They're glistening with a thick coat of blood, just pouring out of the faucet into the sink with a heavy menstruation. He jumps away from it, splashing the walls with droplets of blood as he shakes his hands. Looking around the room, he catches himself in the mirror, only it isn't him that he sees. It's Matt. Alright, so we're in Act 2. Journeyman. Journeymen. Plural. And I'm going to get Father Dickard to do this. Brendan continues drying his hands on his pants as he walks out of the bathroom and into the parlor. Paper towels have done their job, but it's a habit he picked up as a child. At the very least, he tells himself, people will notice that he washed his hands if they notice at all. He sees Arthur chatting with a bald and burly man in a purple wife beater and immediately recognizes the tattoos across his biceps and shoulders because he put them there. Shannon's appointment isn't for another 10 minutes, but Brennan should have expected him to drop in early. He's been coming here for the past 3 years to update the mural of his skin. My body's a temple, he once told Brendan. I want to look like the Sistine fucking Chapel. Brendan rests his arms on the counter as Shannon continues giving his pitch to Arthur. His eyes stare with the intensity of his enthusiasm. He smiles as he speaks to reveal a set of yellowed teeth, missing one in the front. This is like this dude looks how he describes almost like a tattooed star from the Come Town show. Arthur is nodding and taking notes on a tablet, offering a suggestion when Shannon made room for one. "Hey, Bren," Shannon says, reaching out to shake his hand. Brendan accepts the gesture, feeling calluses in Shannon's palm. His nails are painted black and uneven. "Sorry about that, but you know how I get when I'm on a roll. I see something shiny and I lose all train of thought." "Now I'm going to feel bad asking you to take it from the top," Brendan says. "Actually, I was talking to your minion, and I think we're going to let him take a hand on me." Arthur is nodding. "Cool," Brendan says. "Figures he'd rather go with a rising star than you over the hill master. That okay with you, Gramps?" "Yeah, the goal of every teacher is for students to surpass his work. Let's see what you got." So he gets Shannon into the chair, and Arthur gets to work on his left tricep. Shannon's always been a sociable client, and likes talking through his appointments. The three of them shoot the shit over the buzzing of the gun. When it's done, they get a mirror to bounce a reflection of the one mounted on the wall so Shannon can inspect himself. "I'm liking it," he says, biting his bottom lip. Brendan, too, inspects the black tattoo, stylized as though it was laid by pen and ink, framed by the rims of the hand mirror. "What do you say?" Arthur says with a smirk. "Next time you come in, are you going with the old warhorse, or are you asking for me?" "Oh man," Shannon spits. "Don't put me in the middle like that. You know what I'll do. I'll pay both of you to get cracking on different sides of me. You can each take a wrist, or if you want to get real close, you can each take a tit. How's that sound?" "Sounds like you're avoiding the question." "It's a stalemate," Brendan says. "Drop it." "Oh, come on. It's about time we have some fun around here," Arthur pleads. "Well, healthy competition never hurt anyone. Worst case scenario, we'll be pushing each other to do our best, right?" Brendan shakes his head. "Wouldn't be right. Not between teacher and apprentice." "So you think you're better than me?" Arthur says, pointing a finger at Brendan's chest. "I'm not saying that. I just don't know it's ethical, is all." "No, I think we know what you're implying. The thing is, the two of us both know what you're really thinking. You're hiding behind the whole master and apprentice thing because you want to remind everyone who's boss. Thing is, I don't know you're so sure of yourself. You don't challenge yourself anymore. If you're not going to push yourself, I'll push your buttons myself. Wouldn't it be embarrassing to be outdone by your own pupil? You can't be bested by an employee. You're the teacher and I'm your student, right? So remind us why that is. Put me in my place." "I see what you're doing," Brendan says, smiling. "I'm not falling for it. Try these tricks on an only child and you might have more luck." "Yo, Amy," Arthur calls to the front of the store where she is reclining by the window. She looks up from her sketchbook. "Sup?" "Help us settle something." She sets the sketchbook down with a sigh and heads her way. "What's your favorite piece of ink on this dude?" She leans in closer to Shannon, inspecting all the forms across his body. "This shit makes me feel like I'm on display or something," Shannon says with a laugh. "You are the museum," she replies coolly. Finally, she straightens her back and announces that "I like it all." "Is that a trick question?" "No," Arthur replies. "We just want to know what's your favorite." "It's cool," Brendan says. "I know," she scoffs. She makes another circle around Shannon, biting her lip and squinting as her eyes crawl over him. "I'm probably biased because it's new, but I like artsing. Sorry, B." "There you have it," Arthur claps. "At least you can tell the work in my hand," Brendan tells himself. "Amy," he says, "we're going to be doing a little competition, Art and I. We want to see who's the best tattoo artist," which I know sounds funny because we're going to let Artie make an ass of himself on this one. He could use the embarrassment, might humble him, or maybe I'm the ass. We'll see. "Sounds cool. So what, I'm the judge?" "Exactly," Arthur says. "What are the stakes? Why not make this interesting?" Arthur and Brendan look at each other for an answer. "I got it. Whoever loses has to get the winner's face tattooed on his ass." "That wouldn't be much of a win," Brendan says. "That just mean that I'd have to go to work with Artie's get to work on That'd just mean that I'd have to get to work on Artie's ass once this is over. Once you're game to tattoo it. Brennan's hairy buns, Amy," Brendan adds. I think Arthur adds, actually. Sorry. "Fair point," she concludes. "Whoever wins gets to determine which tattoo the loser will get and where. How about that?" "Let's set some rules," Brendan says. "No face neck tats. No dicks, balls, or asses." "Sounds like you're taking the fun out of it to me," Shannon pipes up. "No, this will be fun. It's been a while since there's been any real excitement around here." Generally, on the average day, I'd say that I have a sense of apathy to everything that's going on around me. "And why is that?" Kendra says as she jots something down. "Well, it's hard for me to invest in it because I feel like I've seen behind the curtain already, you know? I've seen the surface layer of life peel back and the harsh reality underneath. I've braved the elements and found my way back home. When do you think this was?" "When do you think?" "Matt's death. Things got hairy for a bit. My life became a horror movie. I did a lot of stupid things, and things could have gotten a lot worse if I reeled myself back in. Things could have gotten a lot worse, but I reeled myself back in." "What would you say that you pulled yourself back from doing?" "Well," he feels his skin tightening as he looks around the room for a lie. He's seen the usual suspects enough at times to know what to do in a situation like this. I could have started drinking again, for instance. Hold up. In celebration of that. Did you feel tempted to drink during this time? He looks down at his shoes. Actually, no, I didn't. I didn't even think about drinking for a second. Why do you think that was? Because I stopped drinking so I could be a father. I would have felt like if I drank even one drop, it would be hurting Maddie. That wasn't worth it to me. It wasn't even an option. So then what were you afraid of? He shrugs. I mean, I don't know. I don't have to know everything. I was just afraid I'd throw my life away. I would never hurt anyone. I could never hurt myself. I know that would only make Maddie's life harder. But that phase of your life is over, and now you feel disconnected from the present. Not disconnected, just not worried. I'm an anxious person. I overthink things, or I used to. Now I'm kind of on autopilot. Nothing frightens me. So you would say this is a good way to live? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I don't see why it's something we'd have to analyze or investigate. You described it as apathy. He cringes. Well, that might not have been the best choice of words, but what I mean is that I felt like I can handle anything. Is that so bad? So there's a little boredom that comes with the territory. I'd say that boredom is a luxury. Some might say that life is a series of different phases that are met with new and different challenges every day. Yes, and I'm equipped to handle them. What I'm saying is I'm the person I need to be. I'm Luke Skywalker showing up in Return of the Jedi. Losing my brother is the hardest thing we'll ever have to do. When you come back home from war, fixing a leaky sink isn't exactly your greatest challenge, you know what I'm saying? My life has reached its climax. If you're not growing, you're dying, right? That's one way to look at it. The second act of my life was just cut short is all. It's all downhill from here for me. I can just coast if I want to. I've earned it. I could have jumped right back into boozing, and I've gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card to waste my life away, but I didn't. I pulled myself together, and I'm doing better than I ever have. There's nothing wrong with me. Then why are you here? Well, I've managed to convince myself of all that. The world, on the other hand, still seems to want me to prove myself. Plus, you could probably use a break every now and then from the crazies you deal with. I'm probably the most cool, calm, and collected person you see. It's a lot more diverse than cliches would have you believe. Many different people seek therapy for different reasons. Mental health, yes, but also grief, or even just to have somebody they can talk to without being judged, or as though there's something on the line they could lose, like there might be with an immediate member of their social network. For instance, I have therapy twice a week. I don't know. You have problems, but compared to what I dealt with in the past, this is life on autopilot for me. I was a student, and now I'm a teacher. You're a TA, still learning underneath a teacher of your own, are you not? Sure, that's fair. You know what I mean. My point is, nobody wants to see the hero get bald and fat. Pats the top of his head. I'm already halfway there. Nobody wants to see what happens after the finale of a show. You might think we do, but a majority of life is mundane. Life isn't a movie, though. What if life doesn't have a 3-act structure, but a serialized collection of stories? Life may not be a movie, but art is a reflection of life, and I'd say that it follows similar patterns that we recognize and can identify with in our own lives. Even shows without a narrative have a golden age before the creativity starts to rust. There's nothing left for me to write about, no decent reason to expect anyone to want to read about me. Looking at myself as a hero of my life story, I'm happily retired to the happy isle. So tell me this. Do you see yourself as a hero in your life? Hero? He scoffs. Maybe in the loosest, most anti-hero sense of the term. I don't even know if I'm the central protagonist of my life or if I just see myself as a narrator. Is that term in the generic Joseph Campbell definition? Playing by those rules, I think my time in the spotlight is over. I've conquered my inner struggles and forgiven my father. It's time to make way for new characters. I'm happy to have a supporting role in Maddie's story. He nods with resolution. Life doesn't have to be so egocentric. There are other people in the world. My career as a star of my own movie is done. It's time for me to pass the baton. You mind taking this one? Ione says, peeling gloves dyed auburn from her hands and tossing them into a trash can as the doorbell announced a new visitor. She feels her bladder pleading to take off and run before Ronnie even has a chance to answer. Sure I can, he says, as though he's keen to something she isn't. But I have a feeling they might be requesting you. She turns around just as Maddie calls out, Mommy. Hey, Brandon says, smiling. He lets her run up to wrap her arms around Ione's legs. Hey, wasn't expecting you guys, she says. Well, I'm supposed to say we were in town, but Maddie could use a haircut, and that's some of the good reasons I need to come along to bug you at work. Ione looks down. Needs a haircut. She looks perfectly fine. Whatever, not worth the argument. Great. She leans it down and whispers, Maddie, why don't you let Mommy put you in the seat so I can cut your hair? Maddie lifts her arms up and Ione lifts her to the seat, which she sees is already fitted with a booster. Thanks, Ronnie. She didn't even notice him coming around behind her. Sure thing, girl. All right now, Maddie, she says. Mommy needs to use the potty before we start. Then I'm going to make you look so pretty, okay? Maddie nods. I want spaghetti hair so I can eat it. She moves a lock of hair in her mouth, munching dramatically. Ione pulls a wettened hair from Maddie's mouth. Maddie, that's not going to... Your hair isn't food. Let Daddy explain that to you. She hears Brennan begin to say something as she walks away. Before using the bathroom, she splashes some cold water into her face. She dries it with a few paper towels. She reemerges with a smile. All right, who's ready for a haircut? Daddy, Maddie announces. Maddie, I don't think Daddy has much hair left to cut, Brendan says, twirling a finger through the thinning patches of hair of his crown. Ione grabs a bottle and begins spraying Maddie's hair down while running a comb through it. So I've been talking to the crew, and we're thinking about going to the expo this year. Oh yeah? Ione says, pulling a pair of scissors from her apron. I thought you were done with that. It'd be a good experience for the kids. Plus, it's about time I got back to some of my economic libido. I've been part-time on paternity leave for a few years, too long now, I'd say. You work hard. She picks a ribbon of blonde hair from Maddie's lap. Look at this. This came off your head. Can you believe that? Whoa, Maddie says, kicking her feet as she giggles. I've been coasting for too long. Time to push myself forward, you know? My parents are really sticking it to me. I can't have them making me look bad. So, before we leave, we were thinking about having a going-away party. A going-away party? For yourselves? Before you leave together? Well, yeah, just something small and fun before we go. It's going to be stressful and it'll be a lot of work. We figured, but what the heck? Let's have a good time before we head out to war. Having accompanied him on previous trips, she knew that his liver would be doing as much work as his hands. Brendan and I really don't want to have another party around the house. Remember last time? I know, it was a nightmare, but I don't work with those bozos anymore. Plus, I thought it might be cool just to hang out at the shop. Make a little bar out of it. It'd be fun. So what, am I your DD? We live in a modern world, Ione. Let's both get poop-faced and call a lift. She sighs. What are we going to do about the princess? She can go roll over the Thompson Castle for a night. You don't want to invite Wes? Nah. Brennan purses his lips as he shakes his head. He gets all weird about people drinking. No, he doesn't. He worked in a bar for God knows how long, way after he got sober. Yeah, but he acts like someone who's afraid of dogs and there's one on a leash barking at them. All right, I'll call Wes and ask. When's it going to be? I don't know. I have to check the dates again to make sure. Darn. It would be fun to invite Maggie, though. You think he'd take offense? If you invited his girlfriend to a party and made him babysitter for the night? But look at this ball of fun, he says, reaching over to tickle Maddie's belly. Babe, be careful. I don't want to cut her ear off. Sorry. He pulls away. All I'm saying is, you'd probably have the most fun out of any of us. More fun than I'll be having. Anything. Drawing the blow dryer. That's for sure. Get ready, Maddie. It's a wind gun. She clicks it on, spraying Maddie down as she squeals. Look at that beautiful girl, she says, squishing Maddie's cheeks as the inspector cut in the mirror. She unbuttons a black apron around Maddie's neck and picks her up. It's a good time, huh, kiddo? She hugs Maddie before setting her down. Great work, babe. A masterpiece. We can take her picture when we get home, and I'll call Art Gallery on Main to see if we got an opening. Thanks for stopping by, Naomi says to Brendan as he steps forward to hug her. They wrap arms around each other, keeping their bodies apart. Trying to watch for the tool belt, Brendan says. I don't know what you've got in there that can puncture me. You're circumcised once. What's a little more, she replies. They release each other. All right, so we'll see you at home, Brendan says. Say goodbye to Mommy, Maddie. See you, dork, Maddie says, practically howling out the final word in a fit of laughter. Hey now, Brendan says, giving her a playful spank. Bye, Mommy. Bye, sweetie. The doorbell rings once more as they exit the building. So that's it, she hears Ronnie say behind her. She jumps. She jumps. J.U. Having forgotten his presence. No sugar for Mommy? Oh, psh, she dismisses remark with her hand. We're not about the PDA at work. If there's anyone hiding behind the cash register, the bathroom, or any other nook and or cranny, please show yourself, Ronnie shouts, cupping his hand into a megaphone. Ione's husband has left the building. There are no kisses on the cheek or no sneaky ass slaps to witness. You can now go home. His hands go from the megaphone to a deft grip upon some imaginary cock he pretends to flate. Real mature. What's it to you anyways? You don't want to see that. Oh, sure. I'm not offended by a man and woman in love, a married man and woman kissing. Nobody on this planet Earth would be, and anyone who is of this planet or any of his neighbors can go fuck themselves. It doesn't matter, Ione says, collecting the broom and dustpan and begins sweeping up Maddie's clippings. It's my marriage. You're right there, Maddie, Ronnie says with a smug grin. Your marriage, your life, your funeral. All right, bathroom break time. And we are now an hour 40 minutes into the stream. This one's going longer than I thought. I'm not going to lie. I thought I'd be wrapping up at 2 hours, but I guess I did have a good like 10-minute pre-show, if you want to call it that. Oh, fucking right. Let's keep going. I know that I have social anxiety, and I recognize it manifests itself as irritating little quirks, but the real trick is to catch them before they happen. That's the thing, it's always in retrospect. I say it is 2020, Kendra adds. Yes, I says nodding. That. So I think a productive way of dealing with this would be to make a list of these coping mechanisms you have and come up with the better alternatives to using conversation. All right, sure, how am I supposed to do that? Don't you think if I knew a better way to handle myself, I'd have started doing that by now? Well, let's have an example. Okay, so I always put my worst foot forward when I'm meeting someone. And why is that? I'm just saving the best for last. No, seriously. I mean it. I have this notion in my head that if I fuck up the first impression, everything else will be downhill. If I set expectations to the floor, they should be easy to surpass. So this is a defense mechanism against some sort of abandonment issues? Yes, definitely. And before you start, I already know what you're going to say. Maybe it's because my parents divorced, I don't know. That could be a part of it, but I think it's more likely that I just fuck up everything in my life. In a lack of a better pop song analogy, I'm a wrecking ball. I just wind up disappointing everyone I know. And so I think some part of me wants to warn people before they let someone like me into their lives. Knowing what I know about myself, I can't think of any reason anybody would ever want to meet me. It's a subconscious thing, but I'm aware of it. Why do you think that is? What do you do that's so toxic you have to warn others? Well, nothing intentionally. I just make mistakes like anyone does. It's just my subconscious rearing its ugly head. It reminds me of back when I was writing, and this is really stupid. Like, you don't even want to put this in your notes because you're going to think I need to rap around or something. But when I was younger, I used to think that my writing was some kind of time travel. Kendra delicately places her pen on the desk. I'm listening. Obviously not actually, but it was a fun thought I'd entertain myself with. You know, I'd write something and then it would wind up coming true. Like my dad moving away or my grandfather passing away or two planes hitting the Twin Towers. That last one was a joke. Don't go reaching for the pen. I couldn't believe the coincidence of some of these things, but the older I got, the more obvious it became that it wasn't any kind of fortune telling. It was just my subconscious opening up in a way I couldn't admit to myself. It was an adolescent meditation where I could communicate with myself and my own feelings. I know that sounds pretty lame, but you're a professional, so you can't tell me that. Don't be offended if you're thinking it, though, because it is lame. Really lame. Not at all. I think it sounds like a healthy way of dealing with life. I write almost every day. I keep a journal on my nightstand and will write my thoughts down every night before I go to sleep. Just take joy in your writing. I'm not writing anymore. Why not? It sounds like it was a big part of your life. Why would I? I'm a father now. I teach. I'm someone's boyfriend, and a pretty mediocre one, if you don't mind me talking myself up a little. I have real-world responsibilities. I don't have time or energy to waste on fantasies. How I see it, I can make more investments on books no one will read, or I can be applying myself to making true stories my family can remember for the rest of their lives. I need to be here, now. I can't be stuck trying to justify the past or setting utopic standards for the future I'll never meet. Writing is just egomania, and I couldn't find my place in the world. I thought it was the only thing that made life worth living, but really it was just distracting me from all the things worth living for. You're right, that you are a father. That requires sacrifices, and the fact you're willing to make such a large one speaks volumes for the quality of your parenting. You're also a human being, Wes. You're allowed to have hobbies. You can still express yourself if that's what you want to do. Well, it's not. So can we move on to another topic? Brendan instinctively turns the cold water on first, but before reaching his leg over the bathtub, he leans back down and turns the warm water as well. He uses the time as the water heats up to close the lid on the toilet. He doesn't know if that will prevent the room from stinking up as he washes himself, but the dark yellow pool isn't an attractive sight in any case. He steps into the water, relieved not to be thrust into hyperventilation by an ice-cold temperature. He turns to let the water massage his back, each stream from the shower head like a finger pressing into his flesh. He bends his head down and works the water into his scalp before lathering up some shampoo and molding a foamy wig to the top of his head. He bends down to claim the body wash from the rim of the tub, but accidentally knocks it down to the gulf of it with his hand. He shoots back, lifting the foot nearest to where the bottle fell, so he's standing like a flamingo or the Karate Kid. There's a pounding at the door. Everything all right in there? Yeah, he calls out, more aggressively than intended. Just drop the soap. Careful with that. Never know when you might end up in prison or something. It's more of a West joke. You know what I mean. Ha, yeah, I do. He managed to maintain an almost sarcastic monotone while reaching the volume of a shout. Uh-oh. Windows Defender. Microsoft Defender antivirus did not find. I don't even know. I'll never know now. I probably have malware or some shit. Back to business. He picks his soap up, noticing a rusty ring around the interior of the tub as he does so, and squirts a blob of it into his hand. He works it up into a lather and begins rubbing it all over himself. By the time he goes to rinse off, most has already been ushered to the sudsy pool by the drain. He scratches his head under the water until he's confident all the shampoo is out, but hesitates to open his eyes in case he'll be met with a burning irritation. A hand reaches around him. He stretches his left glove handle and treads lightly with his fingertips across the curve of his stomach and downward. Lips suck on his neck as the hand tugs on his balls. Another hand finds its way over his torso, rubbing circles across his chest. The first hand wraps around his shaft, tugging gently. Its sister pulls on wet strands of Brennan's hair before holding out the sides of his jaw and placing a finger in mouth. The pulling on his cock grows more passionate. He grows weak in the legs. The door bursts open, and he nearly drops to the ground as though he was in the throes of an earthquake. He plants a hand on the wall for support and leans against it, catching his breath. Come on, honey, it's going to be okay, Ione says, guiding Maddie into the room. She's using her hand as a makeshift blindfold over Maddie's eyes. Maddie threw open the table. Ione directs to the table and rubs her back. Jesus, Bren, calm down. It's something I haven't seen before. Sorry, he replies weakly. Can you hand me that towel? Oh, stop being so dramatic, Maggie says, panting. Dramatic, Wes says, his head in the nook between Maggie's neck and shoulder. He plants a kiss on her neck and peels his body off of hers. I see this as a conserved display of postcoital crash. I put my soul into that load. Oh yeah, she says, rubbing her leg against his. Yeah, at least 99% of it. I'm running on E here. If I came to fruition, we better start saving up for Charles Xavier School for the Challenge Youngsters. You mean gifted, right? My answer depends entirely on whether or not you'd be about something like that. You'd abort something like that. She slaps his side. Get off me, you weirdo. He rolls off the bed, stretching. She washes him from behind, studies the tattoo inches above his ass. You never did tell me which tramp you let stamp you. Huh? He turns his face, and then it dawns on him. He forgets he even has a tattoo. First girl I ever loved. He jumps back into bed, rocking the entire mattress. He runs his fingers through the damp ropes of Maggie's hair, looking at her in the eyes. This is what I planned to name Maddie. Getting inked was my form of petitioning for that. Bit early on that one, were you? She leans in and kisses his shoulder. You have to read Young Adulterer to get that reference to the tattoo. But yeah, that's all. It's a callback to that first book in the triptych. Chronic symptom of mine. I shoot my loads first and ask questions if I remember them. So? She raises an eyebrow. So what? You remembering anything? Questions? There's one I've been thinking about. All right, go ahead. He parts his lips but hesitates to speak. Oh, Wes, this is another threesome thing, isn't it? No, he looks dramatically down at the mattress. If we do a girl together, I'm going to owe you. And then it would be fair for you to want to bring a guy back home, and that would be gay. I'm not interested in bringing a guy home, or a girl for that matter. He sighs. Such is life. For real, she pats a hand to his cheek. She puts a hand to his cheek. Ask me. Her hand glides down to his biceps, swollen by the pressure holding his body up. She squeezes his muscles. You gotta be honest, okay? She nods. All right, be real. When we first got together, was it a turn off for you to already have a kid? She laughs and and puts both her hands on her cheeks to pull him in for a kiss. Their lips part with an audible pop. Wes, that was my favorite thing about you. It still is. Oh, his lips tighten. What's wrong? I was kind of hoping your favorite thing was the sex. He smiles. Why don't you come back over here and convince me? Brandon feels emasculated. Sitting inside with his mother, she takes drags off her cigarette between sips of coffee as his father cooks sausages on the grill alone outside. The catch-22 is he'd feel infantilized standing there, uselessly, watching the real man do all the work. Coffee is always a pleasant aroma to him, long before he grew to appreciate the taste. Cigarettes, he grew to love. Hanging out in dive bars in college and from a long history dating back to high school of courting smokers. Won't ever admit it, but the scent of post-coital smoke is soothing to him, like incense. It reminds him of his mother. "Did you ever get Nora's card?" she asks as she wags the ashes from the end of her cigarette into the tray. "Yeah, I did. Nora, living in Florida, sent a card for his anniversary, being unable to make it for the occasion. Kind of shocked she got the address right. Nora was always a wild child. In high school, she was one to get into fights. She was impregnated by the son of a mechanic junior year, the kind of kid to spend his afternoons drinking beers and propping the cans up to shoot once he was done with them. Her parents never found out, but she confided to Brandon once after he overheard her crying in the bathroom that he had paid her to have it aborted. She sobbed after, hugging him so tight that she nearly squeezed the piss out of him. She announced 2 weeks ago that she was once again pregnant, intending this time to see the child to term. I'm shocked she managed to get the name on the envelope right. She brings the burgundy mug to her lips. So when are you going to give us a grandchild? Well, there's Maddie. Brandon feels cheeks burning. He fidgets in the seat, nervously pinching his thigh. Yes, and we adore Maddie, but you know what I mean. A real grandbaby. Well, Maddie is a real daughter. I'm her real father. I eat breakfast with her every morning, take her to school. I'm helping her raise her more than most men do. Brandon, calm down. You know what I mean. We love Maddie. Listen, let me put it this way. When is Maddie going to get a little brother or sister? He fills his cheeks with air and slowly pushes it through pursed lips. Your guess is as good as mine. If you're going to have children, now's the time. Don't you want to? I want to. Well, do you ever talk about having children? Not exactly. It's been brought up, but we've never planned anything. Couples need to communicate, Brendan. Maybe she doesn't know what you're thinking about. I've tried talking to her about it. I think Irene just needs time after her last pregnancy. Time? How much time does she need? As long as it takes, I'd imagine. 5 years is an awfully long time to wait, Brendan. The words hang in the air like the smoke rising from the end of her cigarette. Wes is holding his phone up with his hands resting by the wrists on the shopping cart as he waits in line, praying that he does not get a text back until he's in the car or at least halfway home. Occasionally, he looks up to see how far the line is progressing, but the cashier, most likely someone's grandma aboard retirement and on her first week back in the workforce, never appears to be making headway in the traffic jam spread across the conveyor belt before her. His phone buzzes and he sighs in the same way he does before checking his bank account. He clicks the dialogue bubble to see Maggie reply that the only thing she needs for him is for him to get his ass home so he can get back to the marathon of the animated Ghostbusters series. Wes clicks his phone off and sheathes it in his pocket, satisfied, thinking to himself, this outcome is pretty fucking cool. He then feels something pressing up against his rear end, causing him to lurch forward into his cart. He pulls it back towards his body before he can slam into the customer in front of him. What's your problem? He begins, trailing off as he recognizes the face of the lady behind him. The face is rounder, the chin softer, and makeup applied more liberally. Her hair is now medium length and dyed icy white. Oh, hey, car. I guess it'd be a car, because this is a character in the book Young Adulterer. He's referred to as Carly, but I believe her name is Tristan. I'm so sorry, she bursts out and then adds that her name is Tristan. There we go. There's a young boy sitting in the front of her shopping cart. How have you been? Well, he nods. I've been doing well. How are you? Great. Me and Bobby are just out getting some snacks before Mom and Dad swing by. She looks down towards her offspring, which Wes can't help but imagine being pushed out from between her legs. Can you say hi to Wes? She coos. Apparently, he cannot. No problem. He probably just remembers the stories about his mom's old loser boyfriend from college. I wouldn't say hi to me either. She shoots him a squinting watch your mouth glare that lasts a split second. Hey, I'm really sorry about your brother. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you and your family. Yeah, thanks. Wes's mom mentioned her reaching out at some point to offer condolences when it happened, but never put any mind to it. Wasn't a breeze. You realize how passive-aggressive that came out, and also bearing in mind the fact that you have to share the line for her for about another decade. The rate is currently moving. He adds, we're coming up towards his birthday. We still throw parties for him. I don't really know why. Habit, maybe. She offers a weak smile. Well, I know things didn't end on a great note, but if you want to leave the past in the past, shoot me a text sometime. I'm always here to listen. I miss Matt, too. I miss Matt, too. Why? Wes thinks, but abandons the word to die on the tip of his tongue. Sure, thanks. Here, let me get your number. He takes his phone out of his pocket and starts transcribing a number she dictates to him. For real, Wes, a lot happened, but we were kids. I think it'd be healthy for us to reconnect. Yeah, I'll keep in touch. Good. I'm glad we ran into each other. Your old job, too, she cackles. What are the odds? Yeah, takes me back, Wes sighs. Behold, Brennan announces, spreading his arms before the landscape of Jimmy Oliver's back. Real quick, I just want to mention, I talked about this scene, this chapter, when I came up with it. I talked about it to Ian, who now is, he's a band dude. He's drumming and shit. But he moved to Pittsburgh, and he used to be the cameraman, and he occasionally would act in Renaissance Band productions. And I told him about this part, and he was really enthused about it. And I don't know, I just think that's kind of cool. So anyhow, I'm gonna hydrate because I need it pretty much. Or else I'm just gonna start vomiting. Behold, Brendan announces, spreading his arms before the landscape of Jimmy Oliver's back. Arthur is the first to arrive, leaning forward to inspect the finalized art. Brendan folds his arms, watching as Arthur mouths out a silent bow with squinted eyes. He hears footfalls resonating throughout the room as Amy approaches. Despite his confidence, Brendan can feel his heart racing. At once, he feels so assured of the quality of his work, and yet he is prepared to hang on every word his critics feed him. Jimmy has been a faithful patron of the shop since it's opened. He's the type who strives for a full-body suit of art to become a living mural. Nearly every inch of his back is covered in a maelstrom of characters, quotes, and objects. Jimmy once described the ongoing project as if there was a tornado in his head, and this was all his interest being tossed around at random. The latest edition was situated in the upper left quadrant, just below the shoulder blade. The ink, still highlighted pink in flesh, is the portrait of singer-songwriter Dean Warren. Before this, Brendan had only heard a song or two that found their way on a playlist he frequented. After Jimmy pitched the concept to Brendan, he began researching the character. He prescribes a philosophy that tattoos are only skin deep, and in order to truly bring these creations to life, he tries to take beneath the surface of the intent. He talks to his clients as he's tattooing them, not just to socialize or create a positive experience, but to deepen his understanding of the relationship to the tattoo. He watched the interviews Warren gave, particularly those in his final months before his life was cut short by a drug overdose at 30. Only 2 months before the birth of his second son. The beanie on his head wasn't just a flat object, but a soft comfort to preserve Warren from his insecurities of male pattern baldness. His laugh lines were deepened with the memory of living with an improv group in his early 20s when he was playing at open mics and gaining a following at bars in Nashville. His cigarette in his mouth was stolen out of his father's pack on the dining room table while his father was sleeping off a midnight shift at the factory. The ring on his right ear was a token of his independence, for he was kicked out at the age of 17 for wearing it. Brendan made sure to know his creation, inside and out. Yes, the reading between the lines is part of the package offered with the services. However, Brendan had a personal investment in his project. Upon its announcement, Amy gushed about Warren, saying he was her favorite artist to listen to while she was sketching in high school. Brendan knew at that moment that this had to be it. It was a high-stakes gamble. He could feel the weight of it bearing down on him as he operated on Jimmy's back as it was life or death procedure. He paid it. It's kind of, I'm still kind of amused at this idea of drinking and reading this because I know it's affecting my speech. He paid it no mind, except maybe for the inspiration. He chipped away at the bust as the vague outline became a ghost of Dean Warren, an edifice constructed of flesh, a living memorial, its veins pumping ink. All the while, they listened to Warren's songs coming from Arthur's phone for the entire 8 hours. Warren's voice sanctioned this memorial. Amy could be heard in the corner, humming along with the tangible word occasionally bubbling to the surface of her lips. She was the mother of this life Brendan's hand had birthed. He considered himself the transcriptionist, but the image was intercepted through what he fathomed was her perspective. Brendan looked at Warren through her eyes. She inspects the art now, with hand over mouth. He's looking back at her through the glimmer of Warren's eyes. He just hoped she could see him in there. He recognized early into this endeavor that Jimmy was not the muse of this piece, but merely the tablet in which he would communicate the message to Amy. What he was trying to tell her with it, he does not know, even in this moment. That can be determined at a later time. All that matters right now is that he is heard. Competition's got a lot stiffer, Arthur says, patting Brendan on the back. Good work, man. Well, let's see what you've got in store for me before we start dating, Brendan replies. Brendan, this is so good, Amy says. I think this is your best work yet. Brendan repeats himself, feeling his face flush. I'm serious. Here, she pulls a phone from her pocket, takes a snapshot. This has to go on the wall. Brendan feels his heart racing. The room is no longer big enough to contain him. The air tastes stale in his mouth. Fight or flight instinct is kicking in from his sprint towards the door. He needs to escape the oppression of these walls and feel the embrace of the open air. He wants to spin in circles with his arms open wide as he screams, "How so, Jimmy says. There's a chance I might be able to take a look at it for myself anytime soon?" He's kind of fucked. We might go till midnight. We might really, this might end up being like a 4-hour stream. I mean, I'm up for it. Why the fuck not? I committed to it, but I don't know who will ever watch it. Wes can hardly contain his smile as he pushed the bathroom door open with his elbow. He feels satisfied with himself. The class felt like a knockout, like he was a touring band in the audience were finally starting to appreciate his set lists. The students knew his classic bits and were grooving with the new material. Today, they were discussing high school cliques before class began. Someone asked him which clique he belonged to, and he prompted the class to take a guess. One student suggested goth, though she replied, "Too many days in the week to wear black, every one of them." Eventually, he told them of his nomadic social nature, belonging to no one culture. "So you are a geek," one girl said. "I knew it." Entering the bathroom, Wes is greeted by the subtle aroma of stale piss. Aaron Texter's at one stall with his hand placed in the wall to support himself as though it's the Wailing Wall / Black Stone. The nest of hair at his crown is visibly thinning. "What's up, Texter?" Wes says once he pulls up to the urinal immediately beside him, despite there being a third or distant option. "Wes, glad to see you. I wanted to ask you something. I don't care what you heard. That girl earned that A on academic merits alone," Wes replies, a bit too loud, in hopes there's no one installed over here. Aaron ignores him. "You going to the 10-year? 10-year of what?" Our high school reunion, you dork. Didn't you get the email?" He sheathes himself with a jostle of the shoulders and pulls out towards the sinks. "I check my email about as often as we have high school reunions. I don't know. Wouldn't shock me if you weren't invited, come to think of it." He turns from the sink, water running, and hands copulating beneath it in the stream. "Want to be my plus one? Leaving the wife at home," Wes says, taking a step back with a zip of the trousers. "Okay, she's my plus one. You can be her plus one." "I don't think it works that way." "Oh, come on, what are they going to do? Not let you in? This is our old school we're talking about here. Graduating class in the double digits. It's not like they're going to have a bouncer." "Maybe, man. I'll have to ask old ball and chain. Wesley Thompson, as I live and breathe, asking permission." "Ask her if she'd like to come with." "Yeah, man, that'd be great. That'd be a blast." Wes feels a semi-moist palm pat him on the back before Aaron departs. Wes shoddily dries his own hands before yanking his phone out of his pocket and typing up a text to Ione to see if she's come by such an email invitation. "Of course I did, like 3 of them. You probably just weren't invited, LOL," she replies. As Ione plugs away at her laptop, Wes sits across from her, marking his students' papers with red pen. There are 2 stacks of paper, the one that he's working from, and a separate pile for those he's already graded. His head is tilted downward as he inspects the pages and is constantly readjusting his glasses so they don't slide off the bridge of his nose. I'm feeling some fucking wings tomorrow. I've been eating like so much healthier lately. Like, here's the fucking deal. Let me show you this shit real quick. We're taking a break. We're having fun. We can take some breaks. I've been doing this. So I've been doing this thing with like dieting, like recovery, relapse. So like relapse would be like eating like an idiot, like a fucking fatso, like I usually do. Stress eating mostly. And I was doing really well up until the 13th. I stopped doing this. It's my birthday week, so I've kind of taken off the whole week, I guess. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. Doing like 8/16 fasting and shit. But like, I'm gonna fucking get some motherfucking wings tomorrow because I'm gonna celebrate doing a fucking audiobook successfully, drunkenly, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be a fucking party for one. I think I've earned that much. I think I've earned some fucking chicken wings alone. before work on my birthday. So anyhow, I want to share that because I was excited. Let's see, I was reading something. Do you ever write? Ione says as the clacks of her keys come to an end. Wes looks up. I send a few texts every day. Seriously, do you ever write anything creatively? I don't see why I would. He clears his throat. What do you mean, why wouldn't you? You've always written. That's what you do. Some bad habits can be unlearned. Looks back down at the stack of papers below him. What? I don't understand. How is writing a bad habit all of a sudden? You've always loved writing. What changed? I love drinking too. I changed. For the better. That's stolen from Drake. I took that line from Drake. Yeah, that's definitely a Drake line. That's really embarrassing. That's stupid. She nods as she says this. That is one of the stupidest things you've ever said. And trust me when I say, I've got stiff competition. He shrugs. I don't see how it could be stupid at all. I don't want to write, so I don't. I'm happier this way. Life is easier. I can be a father. I can be attentive to people in my life who need it. I'm not stowing myself away like a wanker in the bedroom at night, fighting with myself over I should type said for the third time in one page or break it up with a replied. I can focus on my work, my family, and my own mental health. How does writing prevent you from doing that? It just does. In my case, writing was a selfish endeavor, and the idea that I'd ever be successful with the kind of stuff I was writing was a juvenile fantasy. Is that what success is to you? Money, praise? When I'm providing for a family, yes, money is important to me. What happened to your ambition? Doesn't it bother you that you've given up on it? Don't you ever think about what you could have accomplished? I didn't give up on it exactly. I was able to let it go. Writing is rumination. My books were bad memories. I can live in the present now. I don't need to act like some time traveler going from memory to memory in my own head. I can just be here, now. I like here now. I am successful. I have an incredible daughter, and I was given this amazing opportunity to be in her life. I get to bone the most amazing woman at least 3 times a week. I have all these great people around me, and I'm given all these opportunities every day. I want to let any more of them pass me by. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. I don't want to waste any more of my own. It's not a waste of time. I'm sure Maggie would want to read anything you write. You could write Maddie a kid's book, and Brendan could illustrate it. Wouldn't that be fun? Maggie would want to be happy, he says with resolution. Maddie can have as many books as she wants. I'll buy them for her. What she needs is a father, not a closed door. I don't see why all of a sudden you're telling me to get back to writing. When I was, you want me to do exactly what I'm doing now. You benefit from this. I'm giving you child support. I'm helping you out more with Maddie. Don't think I'm not doing this for you too. Well, I never asked you to. Her voice is lower, softer. Sure seemed like you were. I never meant to, okay? I wanted you to be there for your daughter. I didn't ask you to give up on your dream. That's not the same thing. Well, I didn't mean it like that either. I'm sorry. This is where I want to be in life. Raising Maddie made me realize that writing isn't my dream in life. It's not how I want to spend it. I want to be a father. Maybe I can have both. I don't know. Even if I could, I don't want it anymore. My writing wasn't a gold medal. It was an albatross. His phone sitting on the table next to a stack of face-down papers, which have already been graded, buzzes. He picks it up and slides his finger across the screen, then lets out a sigh. Everything all right? Yeah, it's just he's whispering as though they're the only two in the house. He's whispering although they're the only two in the house. Tristan. Who? My ex. The girl I was with back when we procreated. Oh, what's she want? I don't know. To make plans, apparently. Is this something Maggie should know about? She raises an eyebrow. No. Even if it was, I wouldn't. I think she just wants to catch up. I'm just teasing. If that's your business anyhow, I can't judge. Some timing, though, just in time for the 10-year reunion. I ran into my ex the other day at the grocery store. Oh? Kendra says, looking up from her notes. The one you were with when your daughter was conceived? That's the one. He pauses. You know, most girls I was with in the past were kind of one and the same. Cut from the same cloth. I mean, like, this same archetypal idea of a girlfriend. It's almost like they were interchangeable in my mind. I'd wind up in over my head with the girl before I could even confidently say I was attracted to her beyond a superficial level. And then I get bored. I start to poke holes in the idea of who I wanted them to be, which would only make you feel disenchanted with them, but it's not like that was their fault. They were just being themselves. It's like I needed someone to be there so that I wasn't alone, but wasn't willing to let anybody in, at least not by way of accepting them as they were. You say this in the past tense. What's changed? I don't feel that way about Maggie. he says with resolution. When I'm with her, I don't want to be with anyone else. I used to see attractive girls with their boyfriends and feel jealous. Now, I'm happy for them. I don't want to lock myself in my room, not even to write. I want to spend time with Maggie. Even when I'm doing alone time things, like grading papers, she's better than being alone, and I can't say I felt that way about anybody else in my life. So, running into this ex of yours, how did you take that? Wes shrugs. Well, what emotions did it bring up in you? Hope, oddly enough. It made me feel better. In what way? Well, on one hand, that a burned bridge can be rebuilt. Things obviously didn't end on the best terms, and this felt like it was at least a step towards closure. What's on the other hand? He glances at his shoes. We made plans to meet up sometime at a bar. Do you think that could jeopardize your sobriety? Nothing can. I used to work in a bar long after I was sober. My brother died. I hardly even considered it. Why do you think that was? Because I know if I drink, I'll be letting Maddie down. I can't let myself hurt her. So what do you hope to gain from meeting back up with your ex? Like I said, I'm not interested in her. It could just be nice to see where her life has taken her since we split up. We're both parents, and a part of me is hoping to find acceptance. What kind of acceptance? I feel like nobody can truly love me. Not actually. I feel like the people in my life, I'm some sitcom character version of myself, but in my head, I'm the actor behind the scenes. Every now and then, when they hear some piece of gossip about me, when something comes out and they're all disappointed in me, they act shocked. And at this point, I feel like they should understand that I'm not the simple, good person they want me to be. I guess I fear that they see me like I used to see women. I feel like a drug that people sober up from. People come to their senses and leave me in their past. She saw me when I was at my lowest point, at least at that point in my life. Doing her wrong is one of the biggest regrets of my life. If she can forgive me, accept me for who I am after all I put her through, then maybe I can prove that voice wrong. Do you ever think that your view of yourself contradicts your belief that there is good in everyone? There's exceptions to every rule. I'm just getting a drink. Just getting water. I am dangerously close to show me the way to go home levels drunk. Which is great. That's probably like the goal here, I guess. I mean, what's the point of doing this like audiobook as I continue to drink if I'm gonna be like maybe a little buzzed by the end? That's stupid. So I'm just gonna keep going. Like I said, I might have to leave to puke. I might just pass the fuck out. We'll see. Either way, my alarm's set for the morning, so I'll be good. I don't get hungover. I drink too much water to ever get hungover, so, sometimes being smart pays off. The Thompsons are giving their best effort to brighten the house up for the occasion, but it feels apparent that a shadow is hanging over the day. Today is the day Matthew Thompson was born in 1998, but it feels more like another funeral. Wes and Matt's mother busies herself in the kitchen with the cooking. The scent of her labors drifts in the living room, where the others are conversing. Occasionally, one will drift in the kitchen to grab a cold cut or stack crackers with meat and cheese. Inevitably, they will offer to help in the kitchen and invite her in to be with the others. She will politely decline. And their voices from the other room is all the company she needs. And here, she can be at once with company and alone. Maddie is bouncing on Wes's lap. Dawn is awkwardly attempting to bond with Phil, who is courting the mother of his children. He never expected to be invited or welcome in her home again, so this is his way of showing off both his appreciation and maturation. Phil runs a furniture store with his brother a town over. The years have taught him to listen to anyone and just nod his head. He can get through the night just fine. What worries him is Dawn getting the wrong idea that they'll end the night as friends. The conversation flowed freely, as it would any typical holiday, from football to politics to TV shows. It seemed to go in any direction but the elephant in the room. At one point, it crosses Maggie's mind that it's almost like the family is being held hostage by Matt's ghost. This form is really a game of hot potato. Nobody wants to be the first to say his name. Despite the preface to the occasion, it feels to her more like exercising her ability to forget this shared trauma by putting it to the test. Do you ever notice, she whispers into Wes's ear, they talk to everyone at parties but each other? Wes winces with a shrug. They have all the time in the world to talk to each other, just being social, he says back in a hushed tone. The cake is ready, rings out from the kitchen as the former Mrs. Thompson sets a large white cake down at the table. Do you need someone? To Wes begins as he realizes it has already been divided into slices. For a moment, they just stand there around the table, looking down at the cake as though it was a crystal ball. The only sounds are the shuffling of hands in pockets and fingernails dragging against the backs of necks. Lips smacks. They know it's a pathetic sight, but who wants to be the one to end this purgatorial state? Why is everyone looking at me? I like I've got some speech written down, Wes finally says. If they weren't already, all eyes are now on him. I don't. I've got nothing. He's dead. That's all. There's no speech. I'm not going to be sentimental about it. Bad things just happen. Wes, Maggie says, wrapping an arm around him and resting her chin on his shoulder. Daddy, Maddie squeals, but she does not know why. I remember when Matt was 5, Dawn begins. He was obsessed with Indians. The headdress from a Halloween costume would wear it everywhere. The only way to get him to take it off, to go in the store, was to bribe him by letting him get something inside. Usually one of his arrows with a suction cup to put in that little bow he carried around anyways, was small Maddie with a wry smile. On the weekends, he'd paint his face with stripes and hunt little plastic buffalo toys. He'd line them up and shoot at them all day with the bow and arrow. He called the treehouse his teepee. Remember how he'd hide in there and shoot at Wesley from the window? Yeah, he replied, looking at Wes. You two used to chase each other around all day. You were always a cowboy. You had your stick horses and you carried around everywhere. Even when you were sitting on the couch, you'd wedge the sticks in between the cushions so they were propped up between your legs. Maybe I can get the pictures out of the cake. That won't be necessary, Wes projects. Oh, shush. You two were adorable, my little cowboy and Indian. Then one day, you both just grew up. My babies. Her eyes shimmer, but her cheeks remain dry. Maggie reaches out to nothing. Blindly, she pats the mattress until her fingers curl around the edge. The discovery of her solitude causes her eyes to flutter as she dutifully reorients her body to an upright position. She can tell by the shade of the room the sun hasn't begun to rise. With the same sense of responsibility as waking for work, she scoots off the bed to plant her feet onto carpet. She rubs her eyes and stands and reaches for a pair of pajama bottoms and tank top Wes had tossed aside earlier that night. Stepping outside the bedroom and through the hall, she hears a soft whimpering, like a child in the corner. She follows the sound of the kitchen, where Wes is hunched over the table. The palms of his hands are pressing into his eyes as he shakes. They're just light enough to see his face flushed almost entirely red. His entire body is pulsing with each sob. A rope of snot dangles from the bridge of his nose, threatening to touch base upon the surface of the table. He jumps as she wraps an arm around him. Honey, what's wrong? He shrugs and wipes his nose against his forearm. I don't know. I'm just Matt's dead and I'm alive, but I don't want to be, and I'm trying to be good, but I can't. I can't do enough, and I always embarrass everyone. I can't be normal. She kisses his cheek. You are normal, Wes. You've just been through a lot. She pulls a chair out and keeps one hand rubbing his back as she seats herself beside him. No, I'm not. I wasn't a brother, and now Matt's gone, and I don't know if I can be a father. You're a great father. Maddie loves you. Now, she'll find out who I am, and she'll leave too. No, hon, she won't. She's going to find out who you are, and she'll be so proud of you. I know you, and I love you for who you are. You don't know what I almost did, he whispers. What did you almost do? After Matt died, he stops himself. It doesn't matter. It seems to matter a lot to you. Whatever it was, I'm sure it's not as bad as you think. You're going through a lot. I was so angry, Maggie. His muscles lock up as his shake intensifies. He begins to gasp. Wes. He doesn't reply. The tremors continue. His jaw is clenched and his teeth are grinding while drool spills from between his lips. Maggie doesn't know what to do. She should call an ambulance or try to coax him out of this episode, and if so, how? She just continues rubbing his back, praying he would release himself soon. His head falls to the table and begins gasping desperately, his stomach inflating and deflating rapidly. He reaches out and grabs her hand, squeezes it while he pants. Slowly his breathing regulates and the jitters resolve. He rolls his head onto the table to look at Maggie. His forehead is stamped red from pressing against the table. His eyes look like the eyes behind the mask of a killer in a slasher movie. I'm sorry. Why are you sorry? I'm a failure. No, Wes, you're not. You're an incredible father. Your students love you. Why would you think you're a failure? I gave up. What did you give up? You didn't give up. I can't write. I'm never going to write anything that matters to anyone but myself. Well, there's only one way to guarantee that. He shakes his head. I had to give it up to be a father. Nobody asked you to do that. You're the only person saying you had to make that sacrifice. I love Maddie. I know you do, hon. Why can't you be a father and a writer? He looks at her with the frustration of someone misunderstood, like it was the stupidest idea he's ever heard. There's a part of me that needs to prove myself. It needs to always go bigger and do better. Then there's a part of me that wants to be a provider, wants to be there for you guys. I don't think those two things can coexist. I had to make a choice. You can have both, Wes. All you have to do is want it. Maddie and I will still love you just as much, no matter what you do. I know, he said, lifting his head off the table. He dries his cheeks with his palms. I just don't think that I will. That you'll write another book? That I'll love myself if I don't, he says with resignation. All my writing comes from a place of self-hatred, but I can't love myself if I'm not writing. The party feels like a ship with a single bullet-sized hole in it. The captain, Brendan, refuses to accept the futility of trying to stay afloat, trying his best to keep morale up as the shipmates, Amy and Arthur, go through the motions of scooping water out by the bucketful, throw back into the ocean. Unlike their captain, they are resigned to the ship's fate and can only hope for the sight of land, an end to this awkward charade. The conversation feels stiff. It wasn't intended to feel like an occasion to relax, just more rigid than the work they performed during business hours. Ione is spending the night proving to be their toughest customer. After introductions, he brought up Ione's history of tattooing, which Ione immediately dismissed as a past venture. Brennan rolled his left sleeve up to display a piece she had done years before. Amy and Arthur complimented her potential, but the words were swatted out of the air with a gesture of one waving smoke away. Amy made one final attempt at a connection by trying to relate the experience of her hair care with that of helping clients at the tattoo shop. Ione said, "It's all customer service," the finality that killed any motivation to engage with her. She came across to the apprentices as more a teenage daughter dragged to her father's job than a supportive wife. Brendan seemed oblivious, with his arm around her shoulder, or if he was aware, it is best not to show it. Further discussions only involved the employees and their boss. Even that felt uncomfortable, as it was small talk made at a job interview. It was a performance before not only a harsh, but a disinterested critic. Currently, she is flicking through her cell phone. She's seated in an ink bed and Brendan's standing, pacing more than he probably realizes. She hasn't looked up from her phone for some time. She continues to flick through it with a blank expression, as one does when a movie they have no interest is on. When a movie they have no interest in is on the TV. Brendan bends down to brush a lock of hair from her forehead and plant a kiss on it. She does not look up but shirks back, but just slightly enough for Amy to notice emotion. Who are you texting? He says as he straightens his back. Ronnie. Brendan grimaces. Better drink that before it gets too warm. He uses his bottle to point to hers, half empty on the table beside her. I've had enough already. Enough? It's your first bottle. In fact, Brendan was the only one with more than a bottle already in him. Amy and Arthur politely finished one themselves. One of us has to drive home tonight. Fuck that. Where's your party? Let's get trashed and order a lift. Not tonight, Brendan. He exhales through his nostrils. All right, cool. She plants her hands on the chair to pull herself out of it. She'll probably be getting home anyways. After work in the morning, she heads toward the bathroom. The door shutting behind her feels like the bars of a jail cell slamming shut. Brendan walks over to the bench Amy and Arthur are sitting on and slides it in at the edge to Amy's left. The bench is hardly wide enough to fit them all, and he sits with only one cheek on it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun this trip, he says, before taking a swig of his fourth beer. They both nod. Thank you, again, for taking us, Arthur says. Yeah, it's really nice, Amy agrees. I wouldn't go without you. He draws a breath, then releases it. Really, you guys have motivated me so much, and if it was just me around here, I don't think I could keep up with it. Trying to please customer after customer can really desensitize you to the art of it all, but you guys have kept things fresh. Remind me why I started this all in the first place. You've inspired us too, Amy says. A lot, Arthur adds. The door swings open with a shrill creak and closes once more with a thud. Well, kids, I guess it's time I get home. Either of you need a ride home? I've got my car out back, Arthur says bashfully. Brennan shrugs. Leave it. You can crash on my couch and we can keep the party going. I really, I need to get home tonight. Maybe some other time, man. I see. It'd be lame to hang out with your boss. That's all right. No hard feelings. It's not that, really. Amy? Brendan says, pointing his bottle at her before emptying it down his throat. I think I'll ride home with Art tonight, if that's okay. She squirms a little in her seat while saying this. Yeah, of course. That's good. You sure you're good to drive, Artie? He nods. Cool. Brendan nods. Good man. He feels Ione beside him, like a dog waiting to be let outside. Oh, he turns to her. Before you go, you have to see the competition pieces. He walks to the wall where framed pictures of his and Arthur's best pieces are displayed. I've seen this, Brendan. You showed me the pictures. She sounds like an exhausted mother trying to get her child through the stores he's constantly stopping her to look at toys and other distractions. Yeah, but you haven't seen the wall of pictures. Now I have. It looks nice. She turns to Arthur. You're very talented. Who would you vote for? Brendan asks. Brendan, she pleads. Come on, humor me. Whose work is the strongest? She barely glances at it before looking back to him. It's unfair for me to say. I'm staying out of it. Who's the official judge? Amy nervously raises a hand. It's me. Whoever you think is best must be best then. That'll settle it. All right. Brendan slurs, smacking his lips. I guess we're on the way. Artie, can I trust you to lock up? Probably better than you can trust yourself, he replied. Thank you. Then we're on our way. He spins theatrically towards the exit, wrapping his arm around Ione. It was nice seeing you, she calls back. She unlocks Brendan's truck before the business door swings shut and notices. I don't know. I don't quite understand that sentence. Maybe it's my current state, but I don't understand that sentence. Since Main Street is dead after dark, they were able to find a parking spot right in front of the shop, even closer than the employee parking lot back. Brendan releases Ione and flings the passenger door open so energetically it shuts itself. He opens it once more, with caution, and climbs into a seat. Ione is soon to follow. The car coughs for a few seconds before roaring to life. Fuck, she spits. Huh. Brendan sitting with his head tilted, staring at the ceiling. Your headlights out. Just both or one of them? Only the one on my side. She sighs and puts the car to drive. Just hope we don't pass any cops on the way home. They better hope they don't cross us. Or what? She says impatiently. I'll fight them. Yeah, okay, that's nice, Brendan. He rolls his head to look at her. I'd fight a cop for you. I'm not asking you to. In fact, I'm asking you not to do that. Well, I would if you wanted me to, but because you don't want me to, I won't be doing that tonight. But only because I love you. She could feel his eyes looking at her expectantly. She pats his lap. I love you too. No, I love you. She side-eyes him. It's been established we love each other. The brakes squeal as they come to a red light. The radio's off, and the only music is out of Brendan's heavy breathing. Sometimes a bone cracking from one of Ione rolling her ankle or the stretching of jeans as legs shift in their seats. The light turns green. Ione swallows. Sometimes Brendan holds his breath once his lungs are full before letting the air back out. Ione squints as she drives as they pass beneath countless streetlights. There are no other cars on the road. It feels to Ione like they're floating at sea without any sight of land, and their only tool for navigation are the constellations overhead. She removes her left hand from the steering wheel to scratch her nose. As she listens to the fingernail dig into the rim of her left nostril, she wonders if it's shaving any dead skin off. She hears wind pass from between Brandon's legs and soon smells something rotten. Both windows squeak in unison as she rolls them down. Brendan moans softly, stirring in his seat. She isn't quite certain if he's awake or asleep, but does not want to look in his direction to find out. She feels like a teenager seeking out her parents' home again. One summer, between junior and senior years of high school, her grandmother stayed with them for her final days. Her deathbed was situated in the living room. She was a heavy sleeper, but had woken a few times when Ione tripped over her father's beer cans on the floor. She lied about getting up for a late-night glass of water rather than sneaking out for smoke when we let off the hook. She feels her heart wedged in her throat exactly the same way as it once did before when the cans clatter across the floor when she makes a turn. She also feels the same heart-sinking pity for the man snoring beside her that she once felt for her late grandmother. Alright, I'm taking another quick bathroom break. Currently the 2.5 hour mark. Whew. Alright, be right back. I say to myself practically. All right. So, I don't know. I might actually call myself out. I may not get wings tomorrow. It's tough. It's back and forth because it's like you do want to be healthy, of course, and I enjoy that. I genuinely enjoy that. I like eating healthy and shit ish. Like not perfect, but not unhealthy, which I'd say wings definitely qualify as. But then I get like thoughts like, well, nobody's gonna love you if you're fat. But then I think nobody loves me anyways. So it doesn't matter. But if you're in good shape, you can be objectified. And I mean, that's not love, but that's something. It's better than nothing, I guess. Sometimes. Sometimes it's more alone. The last session, you mentioned the anniversary of your brother's death. How did you handle that? Got through it? Did it stir up any feelings? Nothing profound. Made me feel irritated, honestly. Irritated how? Just didn't want to be there. I just didn't want to think about Matt and what he did to us. I mean, the man of the hour chose not to be there himself. Why should I want to? Oftentimes, funerals or events of the nature are more about the mourners than the deceased. Yeah, obviously. But I'm here for my family. I chose to stay. I gave up my passion so that I could be there for my family. Your passion is in writing. Yeah, maybe passion's a bit melodramatic, my outlet, whatever you want to call it. Did they ever ask you to give that up? Well, no, but they shouldn't have to. I made that decision on my own because that's what's best for the family. What artist was ever a good father? Anyways, that's beside the point. The fact of the matter is, he's the one who left. Why should we be willing to pick at the scabs he left us with? It's rumination. It's macabre. Don't you think they want to remember the good times to celebrate his life rather than focus on his death? If they're dealing with anything like me, and I'm not trying to be aggressive, but it's pretty fucking hard to forget. Everywhere I go, he's in the back of my mind. I listen to radio when I drive to work, and I can still hear his voice. I close my eyes, and he's there, waiting for me. He never left. He just haunts me. Do you think you could take more steps to advance the grieving process? What further action is needed? I moved on with my life. I'm the grief equivalent of a functioning alcoholic. I work, raise a kid, try to be an active member of my family, take care of myself. What more could I do? I can't control my dreams. I'm not willing to go back to the one thing that'll get him out of my mind. I've made my steps. What steps have you taken? Well, the biggest one was when Maggie moved in. By living with someone else. Not just that, but I left Matt's old room untouched, even after he died. So when she was moving in, she helped me gather up his old belongings and organize them. Was that cathartic for you? It was, in a sense, an exercise in futility. How? How? My initial reaction to Matt's death was anger. I blamed the world for his death. Eventually that became sadness. Going through his old things brought back the anger, not towards the people in his life I was angry at before, but towards him. He felt like his life was out of control, so he left a mess for us to deal with. Maybe we want to lock our memories up in the closet with the boxes of his junk. You're still angry? That fire's going to burn until my last breath. Why do you say that? It'll never not hurt. The loss will never fade away to just a fact. I can go through the motions. I can lie to everyone else. I can be a family man and act like I've changed and move on. Inside, though, I still feel like I just got the news. I wasn't a good brother. So you have regrets. I mean, of course I do. I insulted him. I beat him up, would frighten him as a kid. I didn't know what I was doing, but I probably broke a lot of bones that didn't heal properly, if you know what I mean. Do you blame yourself for what happened? I'd never admit to it, but I also wouldn't let anyone tell me otherwise. I brushed too much under the rug and hoped that time would do the rest. I ignored all the red flags. I made the decision to look away, hoping that by tomorrow all the problems would go away. I guess in a monkey's paw way, I got my wish. I mean, let's be real. Maybe I didn't kill my brother. He's got to be responsible for his actions, just like I'm being with mine right now. There's that, sure. However, we had a decent brother. Not even a good one, just a C-average sibling. I bet he'd still be alive today. You know, when Matt was in his coma, I used to fantasize about his recovery. He'd wake up, open one eye, and croak another first word, maybe even my name. I'd go visit him every day, help his mental and physical development. We'd become closer than we ever were, and I'd finally be able to absolve myself of all my sins. That could have been my redemption. Instead, he died. I have no closure. I was robbed of my redemption. I'll never get used to it, and the feeling's never going away. Frankly, I think I'm a fucking Olympic tier emotional athlete for carrying it around all day and not touching a bottle. And I do it all for my family. Maybe that's not just my redemption, but my curse, filled with this guilt every day without reprieve. I feel like I've got one foot in reality, the other in hell. So yes, I'm angry that he did that to me. I'm offended by the damage he's caused my family. What am I supposed to do about it? How do I convert that anger into compassion? I can't do that. I'm stubborn enough to carry it on in my life with this baggage holding me back, but that's all I have in me. Have you considered that you already have? Already have what? Turn the negativity into a positive. No, I feel like the inside of my heart is a Bosch painting. I truly believe that I am damned to a self-constructed hell. You said it yourself. You're there for your family. You're working with students who you're very compassionate towards. You're a loving father. It sounds to me like you've used this guilt as a catalyst to distribute all this love into those around you. I try. I'm not much, but I don't want anyone else to ever feel like I do. That's a start. I'm sorry, I'm kind of mispronounced that bit. It should be, I try. I'm not much, but I don't want anyone else to ever feel like I do. And what the chapter ends with, that's a start. It's hard not to feel an energy when standing in a hall of hundreds of people with a taste for your craft. Brendan always liked hosting a booth at cons, being a fisherman in a canoe, and there are so many fish surrounding it you can't see the waters below. Of course, with such stiff competition, it's hard to stand out, but the addition of Amy caught many eyes. Arthur's work is more eye-catching than Brendan holds a company title, but men seem more interested in having her work on their bodies than her hairier, manlier counterparts. That's not to say Arthur didn't get his share of commissions. He operated on a number of passers-by and struck up conversations with quite a few ladies during his watch of the booth. The kids were representing the company better than Brendan could. Brendan spent the day appreciating his role as captain of his humble vessel. In fact, he felt more comfortable behind the scenes. He began to see himself as a coach, as apprentices of the athletes. He looked in the eyes of those with dyed dreadlocks and mohawks, forked tongues, cat ears, sleeveless denim, and he did not see himself. These once felt like his people in this florist promised land. Today, he felt like an intruder, an illegal immigrant, hoping not to be spotted by authorities and forcibly removed. On his way to the bathroom, he felt like a father walking through a high school to pick up his child. Still, he was enjoying himself in this newfound role. He liked seeing his pupils at work and got to make a few decent pieces himself. This energy carried on back to the hotel, where the tenants of a neighboring booth invited them to a party. Cramped in the two-bed room, music was blasting as though it was a club. Shots were pounded, more hugs were exchanged at a family reunion. Flying the wall could have mistaken the lot for champions of some grand competition. Arthur kept dipping out to smoke joints with two men staying in the living room. Brennan accompanied them once. By this time, as they returned, Amy slouched over in a chair with a sticker slapped on her forehead, reading, "Hello, my name is Wasted." "Oh, jeez," Brennan said under his breath, pushing the door open. "Looks like someone's ready for bed," Arthur announces. The two men in the room with her, each perched at the edge of one of the mattresses, are carrying on with the conversation. They don't seem to mind her any more than they might a teddy bear propped up in the seat. "Well, I'd better get her back to bed," Brennan says. "You get one arm, I take the other?" "Let's do it." They walk over to her, and Arthur snaps his fingers before her eyes. She murmurs something as she stirs. He nods as she is told that she needs to go back to their room for bed, and allows him to wrap an arm around each of their shoulders. After taking a few paces, she says she can handle herself. "You sure?" Brennan asks. "Yeah, I'm more exhausted than I am drunk. It's just been a long day." I can't argue with that and release her. "I think I'm going to go back and catch some sleep myself. Can't party like I used to." "You guys want me to come with?" Arthur says. "Aw, man, have fun. You earned it today." "All right, cool. I'll see you two in the morning," he says before heading to the minibar. "You're positive that you're good?" "I'm walking a straighter line than you, Bren," Amy says as they pass by the glass wall showcasing the indoor pool. "Like I said, today just took a lot out of me." "Yeah, it can be a lot. I appreciate you guys coming to do this." He swipes the key card and holds the door for her to lead the way inside the room. "You kidding me? Thank you for taking us." "It's nothing. A vacation for me, really." Pops down the end of the first bed and begins removing his shoes. "You guys are the ones putting in all the work." "Couldn't do it without you." She follows suit. He feels a mattress sink with her added weight beside him. He feels a tightness in his pants. "No, I couldn't do it without you guys. In fact, I don't think I'd want to." He scoots back so his head's resting on pillows, crossing his legs over the covers. "What do you mean?" She finds herself beside him. You guys make me enjoy what I do. This tattoo business, I think it was for the man I used to be, not so much the guy I grew into. She pushes, form teasing me. Shut up. You're making me out to be the drunk. Really, if it wasn't for you guys hanging around, I don't think I'd still be in business. People love your work. You're the reason there even is a business. You're the reason we want to work for it. I don't love my work. It doesn't do it for me. Like, you're not satisfied? Like, I feel like a prostitute. She scoffs. Really, I'm beginning to question if art is possible by commission. I think what we do is more like a marriage. It's a relationship between the customer's idea and our talents. Maybe we do it for the money, but so does every Hollywood movie and book you see in stores. I don't see why we can't be taken seriously just because we're paid for our work. It's not that. It's just I don't know if my heart's in it. Okay, she's smiling. What would you want to do? I've been thinking on selling the shop and taking the money to learn a trade. She cackles. Brandon, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I have a family to provide for, Amy, and the shop doesn't provide for them. Not enough. Iony's back to work. We're pinching pennies. I rolled the die of the shop, and the risk didn't pay off. He shrugs. It's not all bad. I didn't lose everything. I'll be fine. I learned my lesson with a slap on the wrist. Sorry. What lesson is that? Be careful what you wish for. She rolls her eyes. So what about art and me? We're just out in the streets? You guys make it fun. You're young, have a future ahead of you, all this talent. Well, you're pretty great too. She's looking him in the eyes. Yeah? I'm good at bed with a guy unless I could say that and mean it, she says, giggling. Amy. Huh. I love my wife and kids so much. I know you do. It's my favorite thing about you. I'm leaving Brendan, Ione announces. The thought has been rolling around her mind like a pebble in her shoe all afternoon. She chewed it over like a wad of gum while cutting, shearing, and dyeing customers' hair. While in the bathroom, she'd look herself in the mirror and rehearse it. She'd feel awkward, unshapely in her throat, like a word she couldn't pronounce, right? Was it telling of her just how easily it rolled off the tongue? Practicing it for herself felt laughable, like she was preparing for a task instinctual as saying hello. The hardest part was trying to smile too wide while finally breaking the news. The look on Marty's face wasn't quite shock, but spread his lips thin with a sigh. Aw, hon, he spread his arms and walks towards her, stepping on the ribbons of hair spilled from the night's last final customer. She accepts his embrace, feeling him rub her back. I'm so sorry. It's okay, she says, releasing him. I'm going to be fine. She gives a shrug. I've wanted this for a long time. Well, I'm proud of you, she says, looking her in the eyes. And I'm here for you, too. If you need anything, a babysitter, someone to vent to, a masseuse, just give me a call. And he laughs. I take you up on that betting part, especially over drinks. Drinks on me. As many as you need, girl. You're the best. He pivots to retrieve the broom and begins sweeping the floor. So, what was it? What was what? The straw that broke the camel's back. Tony looks to the top right corner of her vision as though the answer is written somewhere on the ceiling. She pulls one side of her mouth back in a wry smile and then shakes her head. I don't think there was one straw. I just haven't been happy for a very long time. Too many days spent alone, and I begin to feel more comfortable without him. Ronnie nods. A man has to be there for his wife. You need to feel loved in a relationship. He's a good guy, just fell out of love. It happens, I suppose. Things were never easy for you two. She nods. There's a lot of guilt with Maddie and that whole messy situation. I don't know how I'm going to break it to her. We'll figure it out. Just gotta listen to that maternal instinct. Ione sighs. I guess so. How do you think he's going to take it? I don't know. She swallows the cork in her throat. In some ways, I think he wants us too. He just might not know it yet. There are hints people give off, you know? Even if they don't pick up on it themselves. He's so loyal to us that I don't think he'd ever consider leaving. I loved Brendan the person, not Brendan the provider. He puts all his energy into his paychecks, and even though I know he probably tells himself he's doing it for us, sometimes I also wonder if he even wants to come home. That'll hurt when I rip the band-aid off, but in time I think he'll realize this is what's best for him too. He can start to live his life. He might hate me, but I hope he can find himself once this is all done. How do you think he'll take losing Maddie? She scoffs. What about it? She's not his kid. Water. West demands, pounding his fist in the bar. On the rocks. Ooh, Tristan says, look at you being responsible and stuff. She's holding the laminated menu. Her fingers are long, painted, probably fake. She orders a wheat ale. Well, nobody wants to grow up with a DUI daddy. True, she says. You've really grown up, she exclaims, sizing him up and down. She shakes her head. I just can't believe it. The weight, the hair. Cancer will do that to you. Oh my God. She puts a hand over her mouth. I had no idea. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't have it, but cancer will do that to you. She cackles, putting him lightly on Wes's lap. She's wearing a ring. So what's your deal now? It's been a while. What have you been up to? A short film of Wes on her doorstep with her refusing to speak to him plays in his mind. You know, the usual. Got sober, had a kid, went back to school, dad moved back to town, my brother fucking died. Typical 20-something nonsense. It's a lot, she nodded. The bartender hands them their drinks, and they relocate to a booth in the corner of the bar. They're the only two in the place, and aside from an elderly couple ordering food, the jukebox is turned off. Wes keeps sneaking glances at her, trying not to be noticed, as he experiences the uncanny valley effect every time he looks at her. And once, this is the same person he used to know, that he once shared a bed with on many nights, and yet someone transformed. The way she is dressed, her style of makeup and hair, the way she talks and seems to exaggerate everything. It's like at once she became more adult and less human. So, what's your story? Wes says as they take their seats. She rolls her eyes. Where should I even begin? I could start this morning. We'd be here till last call. How about where we left off? Great, she says, nodding. That's the worst part. Go on. She takes a deep breath, then exhales. So, after you did what you did, I had a phase. It was just a college thing. You know how it is, especially when you're stressed out all the time. I partied a lot and drank a lot and got to experience a walk of shame from all the different dorms. She laughs. I know I sound like a hoe. For a while, I was. No, Wes says, squinting one eye and shaking his head. I just felt, she smacks her lips. After the way things ended, I had self-esteem issues. What you did was wrong, but it was my fault for handling things the way I did. Anyhow, 1 month, Aunt Flo didn't come to see me. I've been kind of seeing a guy at the time. She shrugs. We've been on a few dates. It wasn't like a real relationship at that time or anything. Anyways, I sat him down and told him, and we had a long conversation and decided to try to make it work. This whole time, I totally hated you, by the way. You were like the devil. She leans in across the table, closer to Wes, as her story continues. Then, when I saw Toby for the first time in the hospital, I became so grateful for everything that happened to me in my life. It was like everything leading up to that moment, and all of a sudden, the story made sense. Then he started crying. I felt sheer terror at the fact that this miracle was in my care because I had no idea what I was doing. She laughs. So you take your first look at your son, and I'm what you think of. No, she scoffs. I didn't think of you at all. That was the key. I didn't care anymore. If you did cross my mind, it was just hope that you were as happy, me and your little girl, as I was to see Toby. I still thought you were a piece of shit, but I also didn't really care about that anymore because in your own way, you helped me get to where I am now. He's starting to feel like she'd come here just to rub this in his face. Well, that's good because I can't say regret what happened. Okay, sure, sorry I cheated on you and robbed you of your youth and all that, but if it came between being a good boyfriend to you or going to be Maddie's father and I'd cheat on you every day of the week. Good, she laughs. That's oddly touching, kind of. She takes a gulp from her cup and sets it back down on the table. We're both ignoring the elephant in the room. Something had to break the camel's back at some point. I think we can both admit that by now. Wes nods. We both made some mistakes, but it turned out all right. You think so? Well, you know, for those of us still living. She purses her lips. I can't get over that. Yeah, me either. So heartbreaking. It's gonna sound weird, but that's when I realized I wasn't holding on to any grudges against you. I just thought about the pain it had to have brought your family and just how terrible it must have been, and so much time I'd spent fantasizing about ripping your balls off. I didn't want you to go through that. I still wish you were spared of that pain. Good news is the balls are still intact. How do you do it? How are you still, I don't know, sane after that? I can't lose what you probably never had. I just lie. I lie to everybody I meet, and I hide that pain away in a pocket of my mind so that no one else can see it. It's still there, just hidden. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, a respected gamer in the online community. Some people have diseases that are killing them and go about their lives. I think this is just something like that. What about your girlfriend? Do you ever talk to her about it? Hearing her mention it took him by surprise. He'd been holding on to his I'm in a relationship card in case she came on any stronger, like a sword of the power of Christ compels you for unwanted advances. She doesn't need to know about it. She needs a man, not some emotionally crippled man baby. She actually wants me to talk about it, but what is there to say? I'd rather hold on to whatever semblance of masculinity I have in her eyes and let her into that world. She doesn't need to go there. She hardly knew me during that time, you know? We had a class together, but she didn't really enter the picture until that was all over. I think it might be helpful if you open up to her about the ways you feel, Wes. Do I really need to remind you about what happens in a relationship without communication? She wasn't around then, but she's there for you now. He wants to say, what do you know? You only knew me before the tragedy. Or actually, it should be pronounced like, what do you know? Um, sorry. The thought makes him feel isolated, this flux between his distant past and a theoretical future. He raises a glass to his lips and sips some glass, feeling the ice press up against his front teeth. His heart sinks, thinking that no matter who coddles him, no matter how many times he repeats a myth of his own life struggle, he will always be alone on the stage of his apartment floor, shaking and sobbing in the fetal position of the single stage light of his memory. Alright, so we are getting there. Yeah, I'll take another fucking bathroom break. I drank a lot of various liquids tonight. I like hydrated a ton before starting to record, so I think that was me crossing the Rubicon. That was when I officially drank too much tonight. Alright, and we're back. It is now 11:30. So I think this is gonna cross over into tomorrow, probably. What you need, Ronnie says, turning the television volume down, to let loose, have fun, live in the now for one moment of your adult life. He sets the remote back down next to a salt lamp on his coffee table. Yeah, Ione thinks. Nothing wilder than sipping wine coolers and talking shit on our coworkers all night over the Real Housewives of wherever. Still, she texted Brendan 2 episodes ago saying she couldn't be home because she was out with the girls and a little too tipsy to drive. So all this text she'd sent him in weeks. She felt her stomach knot as she hit send, so her conscience was punishing her for the falsehood, but typing it out, it felt like a white lie at most. After all, Ronnie practically was one of the girls. Sure, his legs became uncrossed once he got a few drinks in him, and she found his arms stretched out across the back of the couch, but there's nothing wrong with that, is there? He, with his painted toenails and collection of fruity candles, was no different to her than any lady friends. Not that she's had any friends outside of work in some time. That settled, and Ronnie certified an honorary woman. Anya was also the female sex, and therefore it only felt a little teensy bit dishonest to say she was out with the girls, herself being one of 2 girls, using the definition of the word loosely. Yeah, like what? Still stop sign? She countered, thinking back to the trophy one of her first boyfriends kept on his bedroom wall. Just anything. Have an adventure, spend money like you don't have bills to pay, go dancing, whatever you want, just so long as it's what you want. And he catches his eyes scaling up her thigh. He must be really drunk. You could have invited a girl to the gay bar, you know? He scoffs. No, I don't think so. What, you're too embarrassed of me? Not you as an individual, but yes. When he bursts out in laughter, what? Tell me how. He gives him a light punch to the arm. The policy I have. Not to take me to the gay bar? No straight girls allowed. Why? Every girl wants to go to the gay bar. Well, that's part of the problem. It's the same thing every time. You straight girls go to the bar, see tons of hunks grinding up on each other, get 2 white girl wasted and turn to thirsty whores. It's not the embarrassment so much the regret when they get home with a couple to get stretched out in ways they never thought possible. Those bad guys, tiny mock pouts, nothing like a proper gentleman like you. She pinches his cheek and feels a stubble prick in her fingers. Hey, don't tempt me. I might be better than the rest, but at heart I'm more slut than saint. I'm going to repeat that because I fucked it up. I might be better than the rest, but at heart I'm more slut than saint. He removes her hand from his cheek and sandwiches it between his own. She doesn't break his eye contact. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I'm talking to Mrs. Responsibility. Would never do anything for herself. Ione can feel her cheeks burning hot. A storm of feathers teases the inside of her stomach. She can feel the blood pumping in every nerve of her body, surging through the tips of her fingers and toes. She felt as though she had been cast in stone. Any movement at all felt impossible. The chorus of memories pleads for her to withdraw from the situation. No, 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 no. This cannot be happening. I cannot let this happen. Then an image flashes into her mind of Brendan with that young bitch working under him, a piece of evidence to sway the jury in the court of her mind. Her resolve melts into liquid motion as she smashes her face at Ronnie's. So hard she worries for just a second that she may have broken her nose against his cheekbone. She feels his soft lips pressing against hers, his tongue venturing inside her mouth as his hands guide hers between his legs. She feels victorious who discovers hardness, as though she had unsheathed Excalibur, and begins rubbing him through his sweatpants. His hand slips down her shirt as he wets her cheek down to her neck, gently squeezing her nipple. I can probably feel my heart beating 1,000 beats a second, she thinks. Shit, when he takes my shirt off, we'll probably see it pounding like in the cartoons. As one hand manipulates her breast, the other slides down her yoga pants, unlocking her. She hears herself moaning as though her mind is merely a spectator. She tugs his hair, pulling him back in for a deeper kiss, biting his bottom lip. She slides her pants down and kicks them across her room, once they're around her ankles, and then does the same to her thong. Ronnie grabs her by the hips and situates her on hands and knees along the couch, positioning himself behind her. She suddenly feels a pang of anxiety over which hole he plans to enter, and if she's trying to lose that second virginity. Sorry. That's kind of funny. That's a little bit funny. To her relief, he chooses the conventional entrance. I apologize. That's kind of funny to me. She is sure that she's leaking all over the couch as he slams her into him, spanking her and wrapping his hands around her body to cup them over her breasts. It doesn't take long for any tangible thoughts to evaporate entirely. She finds herself speaking a new language that he has taught her. Yes, 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 and so forth. I'm not going to pretend to do some like woman's voice saying yes erotically, because that's that's more comical than anything I could come up with intentionally. In the brief time since the crew's last set foot upon the planks of the shop, something profound has changed. To Brendan, it feels haunted by their absence, homely yet alien. He carries a gym bag full of equipment over behind the glass counter and sets it on the ground before taking a deep breath. He can't make the call if their trip had been a disaster or success, but sitting behind the counter, breathing in that air felt right. Pictures of sketches and photographs of patrons on the wall seemed like windows into his memories. The register before him and the tools in his bag felt like appendages of his own body. He can't help but feel content. Well, you guys ready to go home? Shortest shift ever, Amy remarks. Aren't we forgetting something? Artie says, blocking the door. Oh, it is time, isn't it? Brendan says, looking at Amy. I believe it is, she says, nodding. Do we need a drum roll? I believe we owe the occasion that much, Art says, joining Brandon across the counter, placing hands flat on its surface. On the count of 3, we're counting down to the drum roll. It's a very special occasion. May as well milk it while it lasts. You're just dragging out your final moment of being my superior as long as you can. 1, 2, 3. The drum roll ends as soon as it begins. Once they realize they're rattling all the piercings inside the counter. Well, that was fun while it lasted, Amy says. Are you ready? The sooner we get this over with, the sooner we can go home, right? Art. He throws his hands in the air victoriously as Brennan sags his head with a smile. Art extends a hand across the counter once the jig is up and they shake on it. That was a good game, man, Brennan says. Hey, I had the handicap of being underdog. Are you questioning the judge's integrity? Amy interjects. I can still change my mind. Nah, Brennan Jones, breaking the shake. You went fair and square. Well, I'd never be able to do what I do if I didn't have a great mentor. No greater accomplishment a teacher can have than being surpassed by his students. He pauses a beat. Well, what's it going to be? If I can make one request, nothing involving the head or neck, I'd like my wife to still be remotely attracted to me by the end of this. Spoilers, she's not. She's fucking someone else. Oh, I could say some fucked up shit, but I won't. We'll spare the autobiography. I'm going to go easy on you under one condition. And what's that? No peeking. Deal. They progress to the chairs. The leather feels cold against Brendan's neck. Roll up your sleeve and turn the other way. Brendan complies. You know, it's kind of embarrassing to work for someone who doesn't even have full sleeves, Art says. Brendan can hear him prepping his equipment. You own a tattoo shop. You should have layers, like sleeves upon sleeves. They carry on with banter as Art gets to work, with Amer reclining in the chair next to Brendan's. After about 15 minutes, Art sprays the forearm down and wipes it clean. Whoa, I never said you can look, Art says as Brendan begins turning to check himself out. His head snaps back the opposite direction, feeling like a child with his hand in the cookie jar. Just kidding, you can look. He inspects the new ink in the mirror before them. His forearm is now emblazoned with a bust of a cartoon horse, ending with a tie around his neck. And a coffee cup in the one hand he's endowed with, inscribed with the world's #1 boss. It's that horse you always stare at, but he's grown up now, Art says, nervously. For the first time since his interview, he sounds vulnerable. Brendan could tell the hand steadying his arm was shaking as he was giving birth to this character. A little more cartoonish, because I thought if it was a realistic horse, he'd be retired in a barn somewhere or a bottle of glue. It's incredible, Brendan says. Thank you. I figure he's not racing anymore, but maybe he's a coach for other horses. He has a gym of his own. He's a cool guy, hence the coffee mug his employees got him. Totally cool with romances in the office. Amy giggles, covering her lips with a hand as she blushes. So, really, if you don't like it, I won't be offended if you get it covered up. No, I really love it. You know, it's easy to get jaded running a business like this, especially as it gets older, but you guys keep it fun for me. You're always reminding me of what it's all about. Which he says like 100 times this fucking book. Like, we get it, Brendan. We get it, Todd, writing Brendan. All right, you two have fun, Maggie says, twisting the doorknob. See you Friday, Ione. As she and Wes bid Maggie farewell, she remembers the upcoming reunion. Her stomach drops at the thought of attempting to survive it, not only with her incumbent husband, but the wonder couple as well. Wes leans forward, making a nest of his fingers in the space between his knees. He's been quiet all afternoon, and Ione wasn't sure why until this moment. Rather than holding an awkward tension, he now appears poised, waiting for the right opportunity to pounce. What's up? She says, breaking his concentration and finding the cleverest opener to whatever conversation lay ahead. So, his eyes are fixed on his interlaced fingers. He slowly releases them and flexes his digits a few times. I have something to confess. Yeah? She leans in. You can say anything to me, you know that. He smacks his lips, takes a deep breath, and releases it. You know how I told you I was going to meet up with Tristan? Yeah? She says in a hushed tone as though they're children sharing secrets they did not wish their parents to find out. You didn't. She shoves his shoulder and he sways on the couch before straightening right back up like a bowling pin. Did you? No, of course not. That'd be disgusting, outrageous. She puts her hand on his back, gently rubbing the circle into it. Wes, it's okay if you did. I'm not going to tell. I didn't. I would never do that. Wes, remember that time we made a child? That was a very long time ago in very different circumstances. I think you know me well enough to see I'm not that way anymore. He looked her in the eyes, his gaze unwavering. Nothing happened. Ione feels a pang of disappointment at this disclosure. Although she so badly wants the validation that would come with his dishonesty, she can't bring herself not to trust him. All right, so nothing happened. Then what's the problem? Wes sighs, looking down. I never told Maggie about it. Why not? Well, not because I had any bad intentions or that I wanted to be shady. I just felt uncomfortable, like she wouldn't understand. Maggie's smart. I'm sure she would. People reconnect with exes all the time. It doesn't mean there's anything to it. Maybe, he shrugs. That's why I feel so guilty. I didn't have a reason to keep this secret. I felt embarrassed by my shame. Those feelings just compounded. It was just easier not to have that discussion. Well, do you plan to see her again? Wes shakes his head. Then no need to get all bent out of shape about it. Maggie doesn't have to know everything, does she? Maybe not, I don't know. But I want to be able to share everything with her. Ione offers a weak smile. That's great, really. In time, maybe you can tell her, once you're more comfortable. True, I just feel like an idiot. Don't, Wes. It's not a big deal. Those things happen. Can I tell you something? He looks at her, adjusting his glasses. You have to set the pen down before I do. Why? I don't want it to wind up in my eye. He complies. I promise you won't strangle me either. He offers a pinky. She officializes the pact with her own. Now she finds herself looking down towards his knees. I was with someone else the other night. Wes inhales sharply like he's been administered a shot. He doesn't say anything, but she sees him biting the insides of his lips, drawing them tight. His eyes seem glassy as he scans for him to focus on anything that isn't her. Slowly, he exhales, nodding. All right. Have you told Brenton? Not yet. She breaks down into sobs, grabbing Wes's arm and latching onto it as she weeps into his sleeve. He brushes the hair out of her face, and as she peels away, using the edge of the sleeve to dry her eyes, she looks up at him with bloodshot puppy dog eyes. Do you hate me? He shakes his head. No. It's all right if you do, I understand. She paused at her cheeks to wipe the tears away. I hate myself a lot. Don't say that. You don't deserve to be hated, least of all from yourself. How can you say that? I'm such a piece of shit. I just hurt him, and because I can't stop hurting him, I feel like I have to go and hurt him more no matter what I do. He doesn't stop loving me. I'm cruel. You're not cruel, just confused. He wraps an arm around her, and she cuddles up into the nook of his arm. They sit in silence for a moment before Adonis says, what if Maggie comes in and sees us like this? I think one broken home is enough drama for the week, so let's just hope that doesn't happen. Adonis starts crying more, shaking violently, nearly convulsing in his arm. He holds her tighter. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. It was trying to be funny. It was stupid. He repeats this, though not necessarily in that order, as her fit subsides to a soft tremble. What am I going to do? You know what you have to do, right? She nods. Yeah, but can you say it for me? It'll be easier to do it if you tell me to do it. Great, Wes thinks. Now I'm assigning homework in my personal and professional lives. You need to come home. You need to come clean to Brendan. She shivers and her head recoils back in her shoulders like it's trying to withdraw into some imaginary shell. He's going to hate me. Wes parts his lips to speak and then seals them back up. He is, and you know it, Naomi says fearfully. Maybe. I don't know. He draws an air through his nostrils, hoping to inhale inspiration with it. I do know Brendan, though, and I think he might understand in some way. I don't want us to be married. I can't treat him right. I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't. I almost want him to hate me. I don't get why you haven't kicked me out yet. He's your best friend. In order to be forgiven, one must forgive. To be loved, one must love. Maggie's been dropping hints all night about Ioni's little secret, constantly forcing words like trust and honesty into the conversation. Ione, a not so subtle look. More accurately, she's been shouting these words over the jukebox. Wes knew there was a risk he might regret informing her of this latest development in the circle, but didn't expect to blow up in his face quite like this. Every time Maggie takes a shot at Ione, she makes a passive-aggressive remark towards Wes. He knows it's only a matter of time and drinks until Maggie blatantly outs Ione's infidelity, or possibly worse. Ione drops the other shoe and lets Maggie in on Wes's night out. So he feels relieved and nervous when Aaron asks him to keep him company as he goes up to the bar to order another round. On one hand, it feels good to be excused from the war zone. On the other, his absence makes him feel more vulnerable to a blow beneath the belt from Ione. He keeps glancing over his shoulder towards the table. So far as he can see, they were all sitting in silence, with Ione on her phone. Makes sense, being that Ione had been ignoring Brendan, and when she wasn't insulting her, Maggie was ignoring Ione all night. Aaron's wife, who's been a bipartisan socialite, and still has yet to return from the bathroom. Wes feels a nudge to his shoulder and looks at Aaron, who's saying something indistinguishable. You're gonna have to speak up, Wes shouts. There's a reason I'm gonna pull you aside. Wes shakes his head. I told you before, I don't drink. Seriously, I didn't want to say anything in front of the others. Maybe I shouldn't say anything at all, but I consider you a friend and want to look out for you. You gotta promise me something, though. I also told you that I don't suck dick. Wes, I'm putting my neck out for you here. If you want to find out I talked to you about this, it's my job on the line. Wes feels his face flush, his throat constrict. What's up? People have been talking on the campus, and all I'm going to say is you're really going to have to play it safe for the rest of the semester, man. You've got eyes on you. Like who? Aaron shakes his head. All I know is that some complaints have been made and people aren't happy. Well, who complained? The students aren't complaining. They are. He held an arm out, almost in a Roman salute, and called his order out to the bartender. Listen, man, you just gotta chill out for the rest of the semester and let it blow over. Wes sighs. It was that Arnold girl, isn't it? You can still picture her sitting across from him, sobbing her eyes out and dabbing her cheeks with tissue paper as she told him her story of pregnancy and uncertainty. She felt pressured by the father and her own family to abort so they could go their separate ways and finish their degrees. Wes made the mistake of reminding her the choice was hers. He never saw her again, but received an email a week later, wherein she had not only decided to keep the baby, but dropped out of college and moved back in with her parents. The father is more committed to his academic career than the idea of parenthood, and unless something since changed, will not be in the picture. Parents blamed you for their daughter dropping out. Never said that. Aaron makes a swiping motion with his hand. This conversation never happened, though. So what now? What do I do to hang on to the job? Aaron shrugs. I don't know if there's anything you can do. Write it out, hope it passes over. What are you thinking? Trying to run a class like you're in a talk show, making fun of the assigned reading. Did you really tear up the syllabus in my class at one point? I was demonstrating the rules are ironclad and the class is to serve the students, not the other way around. Westman, you're a bus driver, not Shea Guevara. Not really, no. I'm neither of those. Aaron stops with a palm like a traffic cop. Think of it like this. It isn't your classroom. You're just the driver. You need to get the students to the destinations they set for them, and that's all. No scenic detours. I'm not saying it's a perfect system. All I'm saying is that it's a job, and if you want to keep it, you're going to have to do what you're told. I just didn't want to be another jaded teacher. I'm going to give the kids a class they'll remember. I didn't want to walk around the classroom like an authority figure. I wanted to have fun, to be on the tips of their toes, to talk about what happened in class with their friends. And you can do those things, but you still have to play by the rules. I hate rules. I know you do, buddy. They sit in silence until Aaron's drink is served before making their way back to the table. The bar is relatively empty. Only select few are dancing, and there are as many empty seats at the bar as there are patrons. Those there for the reunion are keeping to their own cliques. Joyce has been wondering all night why they even came. We're back, Aaron announces, placing his drink on the table before pulling his chair out. Can I have a sip? His wife, a curvy woman with short red hair, asks. He slides it gently her way. So, Wes, Ione says. You can already tell what's coming. The smirk on her face says checkmate. How was your time with Tristan the other night? His insides melt and turn into a thick bile in the pit of his stomach. He feels fight or flight mode kick in, and worse yet, knows that everyone at the table can see that he's panicked. He shakes his head, trying to play it off as casual, brushing it aside with his hand. Just nothing boring, really. You were out with Tristan? Maggie says with a raised eyebrow, each word like a stone striking his face. He grimaces. Yeah, funny story. We just ran into each other and caught up a bit. She has a kid and a husband. So we just talked about having kids and loving who we're with and all that. Why didn't you mention it? You know, I didn't want you knowing about every time I go around bragging about you. He feels himself wincing. You'll eventually realize your worth and find your real man. This conversation gets much worse. She might just go and do that, he thinks. Is that something you think might be worth mentioning? Yeah, he's squeezing his bottom lip between his index finger and thumb. I guess it is. I mean, it was such a not big deal that I didn't think about it, really. Fuck. She points at Brendan. Hey, B, want to ditch these losers and go make idiots of ourselves on the dance floor? He makes a contemplative face and says, sure. That's not like a sexual thing between them, Wes clarifies after they depart. They both like to dance, and I really don't dance. They dance like a few feet apart from each other, like grinding or slow dancing. It's like doing the Dougie or the chicken dance, you know? Nothing's going to happen, is what I'm saying. They're practically siblings. Aaron and his wife nod as though they're invested in this before turning back to each other. Thanks for clearing that up, bozo, Ione says. Bozo, fuck you. You're risking our relationship. And you're not risking my marriage? Your marriage that you don't even want? That one? Also, don't blame me for what Maggie says. You know I can't control her. Plus, we're all egalitarian and shit. I can't even take responsibility for half my mistakes, let alone hers. Why'd you have to go and tell her? You know she can't keep her mouth shut. Because I love her and I want to be honest with her. Just not when it comes to you sneaking out to meet up with ex-girlfriends. Well, yes, but you put it like I'm worse than I am, and now she knows, so consider ourselves even. You still owe me some. For what? I saved your ass. How? I can tell Brandon knows something's wrong. He's neglectful, but he isn't an idiot. Notice how he hasn't talked to you all night? He's on the other side of the table. He probably doesn't want to strain his voice. He's your head dummy. He thinks he's piecing it together, and for all you know, he thinks you were to blame. So, because I went out with an ex, that means I couldn't also be hooking up with you? Wouldn't that only make me look guiltier? Ione looks down the table, trying not to laugh. All right, you got me. I didn't think that one through. You just wanted to get me in trouble, and you know it. Yeah, I did. Well, I deserve it. So you were kind of doing God's work. You really love her, don't you? I don't keep her around for the cooking, he says, nodding. That was a bad joke. She's a good cook. So what are we going to do? I'm going to try to not look at the resident happy couple at the table making googly eyes at each other over there as I concoct some brilliant and charming way to communicate to my girlfriend that although I may be a scoundrel and a coward, I'm also the most desirable man in the world and that she can't stay mad at me. You? Brandon's keeping quiet now, but I don't know how he's going to act once we get home. I'm crossing my fingers for a fatal accident so I'll never have to find out. Alright. We're in the home stretch. We are there. I fucking did it. More or less. Like, it'll, you know. I don't have a voice tomorrow, though, which is kind of fine. Alright. I'll be back. You tired, buddy? It's my irritating voice keeping you from a proper slumber. Oh, alright. Let's fucking fuel this. It isn't until now, as we're parked at the third red light since leaving the reunion, that Maggie breaks her silence. So is this just a thing you do? You get in a relationship and then go back to the girl you were seeing before? Is some power play to show that you still got it and can get someone back whenever you like? Wes proceeds after glancing to the left to make sure there aren't any cars coming. He can barely bring himself to peek to the right in case she grabs his wandering eye and tears it out. Nothing happened, Maggie, he croaks. If nothing happened, then why wouldn't you tell me? I planned to, I just didn't because... What's that mean, you planned to? Why would you have a plan, something like that? If it's nothing, it shouldn't need a plan. As her voice gains momentum and volume, it begins to crack. I planned to because I felt awkward about it. His fingers are locked around the steering wheel like someone's trying to snatch it away from him. We just ran into each other at the store. It was unexpected, but you spent the night together? Not like that. We met for drinks one. You don't drink. I don't. And I didn't. I drank water with ice. She drank. We just talked about where our lives have led us. I just don't get why you feel the need to have your ex in your life. Are you unhappy? Do you not satisfied? I cook. I clean. I think I'm a good mom. No, it's nothing like that. I'm happy. I love you so much. I feel like I've been blessed with so much, and I don't deserve any of it. I used to be a shittier person than I am, and sometimes I feel like I've been rewarded in life for doing nothing but hurting others. Honestly, you know that's not true. I think I do, but my mind doesn't. I just wanted to make sure that she was, okay, that I didn't break her or something like I did, like I was worried I might have. What did you? For the first time since they got in the car, Wes looks over at her. She's a little fucked up, but I take no credit. She smiles a little. You're gonna fuck me up if you keep up with these surprises. Really, Wes, I don't need this kind of stress in my life. I know. You're right. I'm sorry. I get caught up in my own head and my own problems, and I don't know how to communicate those things. Your problems are my problems, Wes. We live together. We sleep in the same bed. If something's bothering you, it's going to affect me too. And I want to know when something's upsetting you. I want to help you solve your problems. relationships aren't just fun and sex. No, but with me, you do get a little spoiled in the sex department. We need to talk to you about these things from now on. You don't want to wind up like Brendan and Ione, do you? You know, it's fucking irritating because it used to be my goal. Like, seeing them together used to give me hope and see how badly. West. What? There's a stop sign. He's already in the middle of the intersection. He drives through it without touching the brakes. Sorry, I was caught up in discussion. Yeah, we survived it. Wes reaches over and places his hand on her thigh, giving it a light squeeze. Nothing happened that night, Maggie, I promise. I know, Wes. I trust you. They're nearly home by the time Brendan takes a deep breath and finally says it. I know you're having an affair with Wes. There's a resignation in his voice. He's trying to sound strong, but he never drives with both hands on the wheel when he's at ease. He takes a look at Ione in the passenger seat. His eyes are shattered. He looks broken and crazed, and Ione feels guilty. The only thing she feels towards this man is pity. No, she says, shaking her head. That's not what's going on at all. Oh, come on. Can you cut this shit for one fucking second and be honest with me? He's now shouting. He's hunched over with arms flexing as he grips the wheel with white knuckles. And all their years estranged and back together, she's never once been afraid of him hitting her. In this moment, her eyes keep darting back and forth between his awkward frame and the road, not just worrying if he may veer off the road, but uncertain that if he does, it'll be due to distraction or an act of murder-suicide. She's so thankful that Maddie's staying with her grandmother tonight. You're spending less time together. You're giving each other these stupid looks at the table like no one else notices. You got Maggie pissed off at you. You think I'm just a big idiot? You think I don't notice how you act around him? You think it hurts? Don't you think it hurts seeing the way you talk to him with the way you treat me? It's not that, Ione says, hardly above a whisper. Why should I trust you? You two have pulled this shit before. Ione shrugs. You should trust Wes. You know he's learned from his mistakes. You can't even defend yourself, he spits, shaking his head in disgust. Quietly, as though he's performing a break-in. Oh, wait. I apologize. That's... I skipped to the wrong page. Fucking unbelievable. I'm not talking about Wes. If I want to hear about him, I'd beat it out of him. Oh, so what? You're going to go beating people up? Is that what you're going to do? You don't fucking play these games with me, Ione. You know exactly what I meant. Don't go take my words out of context and make yourself look like a victim here. How am I a victim? How are we not talking about Wes when you brought him up? She's now speaking with her hands, pointing at him and making a violently staccato jazz hands. You're acting crazy, Brendan. We're talking about our fucking marriage, which you appear to have forgotten about, but is still important to me. I forgot about. You want to talk about neglect? Do you know how lonely it is to stay at home taking care of a baby while you stay out all night with your hot little employee? Oh, Brendan, you're so smart and talented. Please put a tattoo on my boobies. She punctuates this with mock kissing sounds. Oh, taking care of your kid that you made? You're going to punish Maddie now because you're mad at me? That's real mature, Brendan. Real father of the year material. Don't you fucking start with that, he shouts, pointing at her. He is no longer looking directly at her, ignoring the light that just turned green. His face is red and the vein down his forehead looks like it's fitting to burst. You know what hurt me what you did. You know that I made a commitment to love and care for Maddie like she's my own. You know that everything I do for you too. I'm a good father. You know why I come home from work late at night? Because I'm working to provide for you. What do you want from me? Do you want me to sell the house? Do you want me to sell the shop and get a 9-to-5 job? If that's what you want, I'll fucking do it. Just say it. Just tell me what to do, and I'll make it happen. Brendan, this is what will make me happy, and it's done. That's all you need to do. Don't be ridiculous. You're not selling anything. I don't get it, he says softly. He begins driving again. This was always our dream. This is always what we wanted. I just thought we'd get here and be, I don't know, happier. Maybe this isn't my dream. Ione croaks. Tears are rolling down her cheeks. I love you so much. He reaches an arm around her shoulders and she leans across the center console, resting her head on his shoulder. I know. What are we going to do? No answer. She just convulses to the rhythm of her sobs. We can't keep going on like this. I know. She musters. Her voice is shattered. Wes is greeted by silence as he swings the door open. It's dark out and Maggie's already in bed. He twists the doorknob and pivots the door shut as quietly as though he's preparing a break-in. He treads in the hall like the floor might give way with each step. The bedroom door is open for him. He makes his way in and leans down to part a stray lock of hair from Maggie's face and kiss her cheek. She doesn't stir. He always appreciated that she's a hard sleeper, giving him the freedom to toil away at night without fear of interrupting her rest. He turns to the living room where he plops down the couch before having a minor anxiety attack that he likely awakened her. For the first time today, luck is on his side. I can still picture Dr. Casey's office, those memories shading it honestly like it was the desk of the Godfather, the heavy mist of smoke like it was being hotboxed with cigars or heated with hellfire. He can't honestly recall if her hands were folded, but the actor playing Dr. Casey in his mind is posed this way. Wesley, she says. The earnest concern he thought he heard in her voice as the event played out now sounds like a condescending sneer in the replay. I have something very serious to discuss. She gave him the same speech as Aaron, about the complaints from the Arnold parents. She didn't feel students were resonating with his style, that he's erratic, that the words characterized him as a buffoon, an overgrown child. I'm going to give you an opportunity when I offer you this position, and now I'm giving you another. I'm going to give you the option to step down from your role willingly, and we can all wash your hands of this little experiment. And what if I say no? You could feel his eyes twitch, his right knee tremble. He wasn't confident that his legs wouldn't give out. Casey smacks her lips. It's a formality, Wes. One way or another, you will be removed from your position. I'm trying to let you leave with dignity. Dignity? What do you know about dignity? His arms were outstretched. This place is a church for academic sycophants. There's no education here. There's no honesty. It's a culture of body snatchers. It's a sham. Go ahead, can me. Do what you must, because it doesn't matter what you do. You can cancel, fire, suppress whoever you want. The fact of the matter is you can't stop the truth. The truth will always find a way to sprout up through the cracks of whatever concrete you pour over it. Wes, this has very little to do with whatever views you think I disapprove of, and very much to do with your attitude and behavior in the classroom you're exemplifying in this moment. I don't know what truth you think you possess that I, this campus, are trying to censor, but I assure you there's no conspiracy taking place. I'm not claiming ownership of any truth or absolute knowledge. I'm just saying you people want to focus out these ideas how they should think. I knew that when I was your student, but I thought I could make a difference. I thought I could be that teacher that makes a difference in someone's life. And you know what? Someone is going to be born because of me. Maybe I didn't keep a professional distance or whatever, but you can't make a change by keeping the status quo. All that I've ever said is that they need to think for themselves. I'm proud of my work here. Please, I'm asking you to compose yourself so we can end this amicably. Fuck that. I'm leaving, but make no mistake, this is not amicable. I understand you're upset. This is never easy. I do want to wish you the best. Keep your platitudes. Keep your cushy job and your indoctrination programs. Just know when it's all said and done, you won't see me in hell. Back on his couch, Wes leans down and cradles his head in his hands. He pushes his palms against his temple, massaging them gently. He can see himself breathing heavily. God, I think you've heard these speeches enough times to know that I suck at this. I guess being God, you knew that before I gave them. I know you're probably sick of these one-sided conversations about me, and what I want and what I need, but I don't even want to try to play you like that tonight. I'm confused. I'm lost. I don't know what to do now, or how to live my life, or even who I should be. It's kind of funny. Actually, I typoed here. I don't know how to live me life. Like he's a leprechaun or a pirate, like Mr. Krabs. I don't know how to live me life. Just a sad leprechaun, which really that's kind of funny to me. Just please give me direction. Let me hear your voice. I've been trying all this time to make it on my own, to go through the motions of faith while retaining autonomy, and all I do is create a bigger and bigger mess for myself. I guess this is another one of those times where I just called just to ask for something, but maybe this time I'm at least asking for the right thing. Anyhow, it's the best I've got. It's all I've got. For once in my life, I'm just going to shut up and listen to whatever you have to say to me. If there's anything you need to know, I'm ready. Then there's 3 blank pages. Kendra is power walking towards the lobby. She'd gotten caught up in taking notes for a previous client, a middle-aged woman deep in grief after the passing of her husband just months after the birth of their first grandchild. She lost track of time entirely. If her alarm hadn't got off, it was time to meet Wes Thompson for his appointment. Really, she still has another 5 minutes, but she's raised to believe that being on time is late. She can hear her heels clicking on the tiled floor with each step. By the time she finally pushes those double doors open, trying to make it seem as non-rushed as possible, she finds herself in a lobby of strangers without a patient of hers to be found. Some of the patients give her a look as though she was an intruder and were punishing her for distracting their meditation on the TV with dirty looks. She tolerates this for nearly 5 minutes before walking to the receptionist just a little further down the hall. Thompson, Judy says, scanning her list. No Thompson's checked in today. It's so unlike him to be late. She pulls her phone out and finds his contact in her directory. The phone rings once, twice, 3 times, and finally 4. Hi, this is Wes. If you're trying to reach me, clearly I'm doing something more important. If it'll make you feel any better, leave a message after the beep, but I won't listen to it. Where could he be? Hope you don't mind me swinging by, but the Kremlin had something to tell you, Wes says, leading Maddie up Brendan's porch by the hand, steps by the hand. Happy Father's Day, she shouts, throwing her hands up like she's tossing confetti. Thank you, honey, Brendan says, lifting her up and spinning her around before setting her back on the ground. Thanks for stopping by, man, he says to Wes, patting him on the shoulder. Happy Father's Day. Happy birthday to you, too. You should probably know some about how Father's Day works. We're not all born to die. But that's where you're mistaken, Wes replies, holding up a finger. Not born, reborn. Brendan laughs, shaking his head. I've missed you guys. Hasn't been around here since, you know who got an APARTMENT, Wes says, scoping the place out, even though it looks exactly the same as it always has, save for a greater population of empty beer bottles in the recycling can. Quiet, but somehow less lonely. Think about it like this. If you die alone, at least you're in good company, right? True. Hey, man, you want water or something? Hattie, can I get anything for you? I don't want to be short, but we gotta get going. Grandpas are expecting us. We just want to see if you're home and say hi. I appreciate that. Made my day. I mean it. Get the lady one for the road if you have anything non-alcoholic. Yeah, I think I do. He ventures in the house. Wes can hear the fridge opening and closing from the porch. Brendan reemerges with a juice box, handing it to Maddie. Looks like this is the last one. Guess you have to go out and buy some more, Wes says. Yeah? Maybe you can shake your marriage off, but you can't get rid of us that easy. In that case, I'll keep some in stock. Well, we'd best be on our way before Dad rounds up a drunken church party at Sal's. Wouldn't want that, Brendan chortles. Thanks again for stopping by, Wes. It means a lot. Our final piece of wisdom before I go is, unless I think of another. Even if not, I'll probably think of something better in the car and text it to you. Anyhow, never giving up is a core tenet of optimism. Guys like us don't give up. We're giving up on. I actually quoted that at work today. I was talking to someone and said, I don't give up. I'm giving up on. It's funny. He pulls Brendan in for a quick hug. And remember, he says, patting him on the ass, only cowards wear condoms. Only condoms wear cowards. Brendan recoils from the shock of that before getting down on one knee to take a look at Maddie from eye level. Goodbye, Maddie. I miss you very, very much. But we're still going to see each other and be friends, okay? Bye, Daddy, she says, giving him a quick peck on the cheek. Suddenly, Brendan can no longer see and feels his nose drain into his mustache. Bye, Maddie. It's a food, isn't it? Maggie says. Wes has been pushing the chicken nuggets around his plate with a fork for nearly 15 minutes, now looking down on it like he's about to puke. Wes, your hands are shaking. Are you feeling okay? Oh, all right. So I kind of pulled one over on your ass, he says without looking on the eyes. His bottom lip is quivering. This isn't actually a Father's Day dinner for me. She could have figured that out by him choosing her favorite Italian restaurant. What is it, Wes? What's wrong? It hasn't quite been the same since losing his job. She recognized how great a blow that can be to a man's ego, but he hasn't so much been depressed in the following weeks so much as skittish. Even as most nervous, though, she's never seen him like this. He drops clumsily to the ground. For a second, she thinks he actually fell out of his chair. She gasps in shock. He reaches in his pocket and then realizes there's a waitress attempting to step around him. Excuse me, he says weakly. Maggie now realizes that all eyes on the room are on them. Maggie, I don't know how to do this because I know I'm not good enough for you. I know nothing I say can change that. I'll never understand why you lowered your standards of likes of me, but I'm so grateful that you did. You're the most beautiful, intelligent, awesome person I've ever met. And that includes people on the TV. You are an incredible mother to Maddie. You turn my house into a home. You make everything worth it. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I can't promise I ever will. The only thing I do know is that wherever life takes me, I'm going to go there with you. I want to take care of you, but not because you're helpless. I want us to take care of each other. You're my gym partner in life, my buddy cop. I'm supposed to be good with words because I'm a writer, but the more I talk, the less good I feel about that. I wanted to wait until I ever finished eating, but I couldn't eat because I was so anxious, and I was worried that if I waited until I ate the food that I might throw that up while trying to propose. So here I am, not on one knee, but two, because I was too nervous to take the time to properly assume the position. Begging you, Maggie, will you please waste the rest of your time with me? Yes, she says, nodding. Yes. She wipes a tear from her cheek and presents her hand for him to fit with the ring. His hand is shaking so much he can hardly coordinate this, not to mention through his blurry vision. She currently appears to have 8 ring fingers. He stands on wobbly legs, taking her in his arms as she rises to join him. The nondescript restaurant fills with applause from its faceless patrons as they consummate the engagement with the kiss. There's something I need to tell you too, Maggie says, one of her breath caressing Wes's cheek. Yeah? I'm pregnant. Okay, says nodding. He pulls her back in for another kiss. Cool. Alright, so that's it. That's the book. In about 3.5 hours roughly. Like I said, there was a lot cut from this one. I'll get into that a little bit. I don't think I have much more talk in me tonight because my throat is like on fire. But essentially, there was supposed to be an entire other third act to this book, and it was basically entirely cut. And I stand by that decision mostly, if not entirely. So basically, we were supposed to get into like the gritty details of Brendan and Ione's divorce, him finding out that she slept with Ronnie. We were supposed to get demonstrated a chapter where Wes goes to get Maddie, and they have an awkward interaction where Brendan thinks that Wes, he's being weird towards Wes because he suspects that he was the person that Ione commits the infidelity with, and obviously that was done differently in this version because it was just cut down drastically and it was condensed into the reunion chapter, which I really wanted the 10-year reunion to somehow be a pivotal moment because the book begins with a 5-year reunion. So it only makes sense for it to kind of conclude at the 10-year in some ways. But ultimately, I just was writing the book and couldn't conjure the enthusiasm to write all that shit. And I was just talking to people and trying to explain it that I almost just because essentially it was supposed to be passing the torch where Wes is phased out of the book. So the third act was going to begin with the ending of the book as we know it. So his proposal was the beginning of the third act of the book. And then the second act would end with the 3 blank pages. However, I just did not want to write a divorce book. I did not want to write a breakup book. I knew it had to happen for plot, but I just wanted to do as little as I could with it because I didn't have it in me, and I never will. I'll never want to write that book. I planned it a long time ago, but it's I was talking to a lot of people, and the person who actually kind of like fully convinced me was actually my uncle, who's a really smart person. And he said, you don't need all the gory details. And that's kind of how I feel about that stuff at this point. And it made sense to me to end on the proposal. And I always wanted a twist to be that Maggie is pregnant with another child because it makes sense for the triptych to end on Wes being willing to take up the responsibility of being a father, this time accepting it. And I always wanted to end on a line of dialogue, which was completely different originally. It was just building up to like Wes being told to write, and it was like essentially a thing where it's like, what you have to do, and I was like, what? And write is the last word of the book. But I just felt that was false, and to be honest, I don't personally know that I don't believe Wes ever writes again. I have plans for another book, but not really following him at all. It's more about Brandon and his tribulations, and it's kind of a post-COVID world book. But let me think about the stuff cut out of the book. If there's anything more that I need to, I guess there's more classroom stuff. There's more, like the stuff with the girl who's pregnant. Of course, that was going to be a bigger part of the book originally, and that was supposed to have Wes reflecting on when Maddie was conceived and the advice he would like to give Ione in his growth. Once again, I don't think you need that. I don't think you need like 8 chapters of Wes misbehaving in the classroom or doing something he finds ethical but unprofessional to demonstrate that. I really don't regret leaving that out personally, especially because my philosophy with these books is these are snapshots from the life more than a typical narrative. But yeah, I think that's all. And it's almost 4 hours and I'm exhausted, and it's 12:16 on February 16th. So I'm just gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go to bed. So I'd say thank you for watching, but nobody did. And that's cool, that's fine. If anybody ever watches, that's cool. So thank you for that. But if not, it's all right. I did it. So I guess I can there's my self-worth for the year until next year. I can do some stupid grand gesture to make myself feel valuable or whatever. So, night.